Financial independence series which we had started. Finance is an integral part of life, even for the basic roti, kapda, and makan. And we have many goals in life, but I think financial independence goal should be one of the most important goals and to be achieved at the earliest on priority. Today we have esteemed speakers amongst us and also authorities from the tax departments. I hope you take a great advantage from today's topics. One request, kindly post your queries in the question and answer box, and please do not put your MMC numbers in the chat box. Now, I would like to call upon the secretary of our association, Dr. Pradeep Baliga ji, who is a practicing ENT surgeon from Kalyan. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Pradeep Baliga, the Honorary Secretary of Association of Medical Consultants, Mumbai. A very warm welcome to all our esteemed guests, speakers, delegates to Fincon 3. This is the third part of our Financial Freedom Series program, which was started on 15th August 2021 in association with Finovate. Our sincere endeavor is to enlighten our medical fraternity to achieve financial independence. Now, to begin with, it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce our esteemed President, Professor Dr. Sushmita Bhatnagar. She is Honorary Consultant Pediatric Surgeon at Bombay Hospital, Institute of Medical Sciences, Global Hospital, Apollo Hospital, Kumbhala Hill Hospital, Mumbai. Professor Bhatnagar is immediate past chairperson as well as chairperson-elect at the Pediatric Surgical Oncology section of Indian Association of Pediatric Surgeons. She is the director of Foundation of Children's Universal Support, known as FOCUS. Professor Bhatnagar has over 100 publications and chapters in books and is the editor of publication Neonatal Surgery. She has won multiple national as well as international awards. Madam President, now I request you to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baliga. It's been really wonderful to have a physical on-site meeting, which we have not been having for last so many months. In fact, years. We've got so accustomed, so used to being online that I feel there is still some reluctance. There's still a comfort level that everybody has developed to be online. Though in the beginning, we were not very comfortable online. Now, I think we are not comfortable having a meeting. And that is the reason why people have registered. But I'm still seeing empty chairs over here. I hope that doesn't discourage everyone over here, because there are people who are logged in online. And I'm sure whatever we are going to be discussing here is going to be projected. It's also going to be on YouTube on a later date. So people are going to be taking full advantage of these sessions, which are going to be held today. So first and foremost, thank you all for being here today on a Sunday afternoon, which nowadays nobody likes to go out, and for being here with us. Now, our journey of Fincon, we have had 3 sessions and plus some master classes in this year, because we were on a journey of financial freedom. Now, if we would have done just one program, would we have achieved, or would we have helped our members achieve financial freedom? Is it possible? No, thank you. It's not possible. So that was the only reason why we kept having one after the other, because first of all topics cannot be covered in one session. Second is nobody can really understand in depth as to what are the advances which are happening. In every field, there are advances. In fact, the medical field, meaning we as medical professionals may not be advancing at that faster pace, but the world outside is rapidly advancing. And that was one of the reasons why our financial partners, Finovate, who have been here with us for last 8 years, meaning this year they will be completing 8 years. And they have done a wonderful job of training our members as well as supporting them through and through, not just in investments, but whatever investment, not just in new investments, but whatever they had in the past as well. They have worked really, really very hard all throughout these years to ensure that our members are the ones who are most benefited. So now I hand over the proceedings to Ms. Nehal Mota. Let me invite her to the dais where she can say a few words, and then we can move on to our scientific session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sushmita. And once again, thanks to the entire AMC committee. It's been a beautiful journey of 8 years together. 8 years back, when we met, a few doctors, and we came to know about this large association which had all postgraduate consultants, we thought, wow, we've landed somewhere where people, are very intellectual, they are making money, but they don't have the time to manage their money. And we thought, it's going to be really easy. But as and when we started interacting with doctors, we realized 3 challenges which we saw in the doctor's financial life. One was that doctors were taking very ad hoc and random financial decisions. They had so many patients visiting them. If someone would suggest some investment, they would end up making that investment. And they were sitting on piles of investments, not having any direction, with their money. The second thing was there was a lack of financial education. So when we looked at the net worth of doctors, majority of it was in physical assets, which was real estate, a bit in gold and fixed deposits. And I can, say if 8 years back, probably not more than 5 to 10% of doctors' net worth was in equity, or I'll say even, financial assets beyond, like fixed deposits. So that was what it was 8 years back. And we started this journey by insisting that people do financial life planning. Because what happens in financial life planning is that they understand where they stand in their financial life today. We do an audit of all the investments they've done till date. We help them define their financial goals. We map all the investments they've done till that day to their financial goals. And then we give them a clear roadmap as to going forward, what should be your asset allocation in debt, equity, gold, real estate. And if you are investing in equity, it is more of a process rather than an outcome. And what we have done in the 8 years is created that process, in investing for all the doctors. So I would once again like to thank the entire AMC committee, the past presidents and the past committee, that you all came up with this beautiful initiative of financial OPD, which is now, come into the 8th year. And this year particularly, I'd like to thank Dr. Sushmita and the entire committee members for that whole, thing that we really don't need to do 1 or 2 events on finance, but it should be a series where we touch upon various aspects. So we started with personal finance. We had Mr. Nilesh Shah come and talk about equity investing in the coming decade. Then we had a session not only on how to create wealth, but even on succession planning, where we spoke about wills. Then there was a session on business finance. Then there was a session on money and the mind, because money and equity investing is a lot about psychology than about actual investing. So in the Fincon 1 and Fincon 2, we've touched upon various aspects of personal finance. And today we want to take this session forward. I would like to thank Canara Rebecca, who was there in Fincon 2 and even in Fincon 3. And I would also like to welcome Value Quest, to this whole journey of financial OPD and Fincon with AMC. And today, there are some very, very important topics. One is that, in the last 2 years, everybody thinks that you put money in equity markets and you will make money or you will get phenomenal returns. So though equity investing is easy, but it is not simple. And we have a very marquee fund manager coming and talking about it. We have someone from Canara Rebecca talking about how asset allocation is important. Though I did briefly speak about it, but there will be more insights on it. And third and the most important thing is the GST, the impact of GST on doctors, because there are a lot of questions which doctors have on GST. And today we have a very reputed chartered accountant and people from the GST office coming and talking about it. So thank you once again to all the committee members of AMC, Dr. Sushmita, Dr. Vikrant, Dr. Pradeep Baliga. I've seen the amount of hard work which has gone in the 3 Fincons, with them and all the committee members. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Neha, madam. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Mukesh Gupta, sir, our very own past president of Association of Medical Consultants and chairman of Media and Communications Cell. He is a very well-known and one of the best IVF specialists in Mumbai and top gynecologist having 19 years of experience. He has received Best Work Award by Foxy at National Conference on Adolescent Health. He is also winner of Emerging Star of Medicines by IMA Mumbai. He has his own YouTube channel with more than 3 crore subscribers. He is a very good orator, mentor, and a very dear friend. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and I'm extremely happy and proud that I am here at AMC with this amazing series of programs that is Fincon. And when we talk about Fincon, what comes to our mind is that, just give me a moment so that I can get the thing sorted. Yeah, that should be good. Is it clear? Okay, so when we're talking about financial planning, we doctors are are considered and primarily perceived that they are high intellectual quotient personalities. But when it comes to the business sense, we have not been formally trained and we have not been formally advised on what needs to be done. And here is the role of AMC, where we have always looked at those non-academic issues which can help doctors to do better in their journey of life, not just as doctors, but also as an individual, part of their family, part of the medical professional. Fincon, where we are focusing on the finances at a bigger way, and how do you handle your own finances and how do you be successful? If we are successful, we generate economy, it is going to help not just us, not just our family, but the society at large. So today we're going to look at the business aspect of healthcare and not the academic aspect. Okay, so the topic today for me was how do we introduce strategy and strategy planning in healthcare. Let me tell you one very simple thing. When I started off, I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist practicing, running a single specialty micro setup with all the multiple services for women in childcare. When I started off, I thought that I need to know a little more of how to handle people and people skills. So I went on to do my postgraduate diploma in psychological counseling. But that was not enough to understand the business and the economics. And hence, I got myself trained from, I am Calcutta alumni on strategy management. Well, this is the background why I have been called here. I'm going to share some learnings which I have had in my journey, in my class in IIM Calcutta, which I have realized how we can incorporate in our practice. It just helped us, many of my friends and myself, and let us see what we can learn in this whole process. Floyd Loop, an extremely brilliant cardiac surgeon, when he was given the charge of his hospital, the hospital was actually doing bad and it was in debt and it was supposed to be in a situation of not doing so good. Cleveland, Ohio, which is later on adjusted as one of the most successful hospitals. And this man actually turned around the business of the hospital, not just because he was a great doctor, but also he had that tremendous acumen. And these are his words: more than prescriptions, it is not just prescription, but medicine involves communication, tolerance, flexibility, listening, hard work, and passion for practice. And I would add a little bit of good understanding of finances would really help us in a very big way. So let us start off with one basic premise that as doctors, we are not just going to be looking at goals and making money. There is a purpose, path, or journey that we have to take. So it is not just the profit driven, but it is purpose driven. And that's how healthcare is always going to be projected or perceived by the population. So in healthcare organizations, we should not just look at how much money we are making, but we are also looking at the larger goal or larger destination, whatever. So for example, an organization has decided that we are going to take care and reduce the death amongst the intensive care people, and they are very big in critical care. Or there is an organization who wants to reach out to the last mile, and they're in the primary care. Or an organization like ours who wants to welfare for women in childcare, and we are working in that zone. So if we want to still do better and perform better, and we have to generate revenue, we need to understand to incorporate the strategies in our practice. And what is the strategy all about? When we say strategy, there is something called a generic strategy, which is overall purview. Then comes the strategies at the corporate level, the business level, and the functional level. Well, in our kind of organizations where we are running single specialty, single setups, it is actually more to do with functional strategy and the day-to-day activity. But when we look at the corporate organizations where there are people who are having multiple setups, multiple nursing homes, multiple hospitals, and chains of healthcare setups, the whole game is different when it comes to generic or corporate strategy. Let me explain one small thing, that goal is not the same as strategy. There is a difference between a good plan and a strategy. So if you have a very great plan, that doesn't mean that you have a great strategy. So I'm going to be running this whole checklist of things. A few pointers about the strategies which I'm going to be discussing today is how to establish the goals, how do we look at the core competency, how we look at the strategic positionings and the trade-offs that needs to be done to maintain and achieve those positioning. What is the economies of scale and scope which we keep doing it, and let us try to understand that. The concept of strategic fit, how in a healthcare organization, in a practice, we try to create a fit in a high order, which helps us to differentiate and cut down on the, or we are rather make a larger distance for competitive convergence. How do you create a competitive advantage? And what is the concept of benchmarking, which is huge in healthcare? And on the right-hand side, I have written down the end point, how the technology, IQ and EQ is going to help us to achieve this. So this is going to be the broad outline of how we incorporate these principles in our healthcare practice. So let us look at core competency. C.K. Prahlad was talking about core competency when he said that if you decide to work great on your core competency, you are destined to succeed. But let us understand and find what is our core skills or core sets, and then we need to align them with our goals. And remember, again, I'm going back, it is not the goal to make money, but the purpose path where we're not only making money, but our destination of what we want to achieve in the larger good as a healthcare professional. Well, when we talk about Porter's or strategy, we have to understand that this is what the generic strategy means. At one end, there is something called as cost leadership, where you are looking at cutting down on the cost and bringing down the cost to as much as possible. It is the goal which all organizations are looking for, but majorly the healthcare setups which are governed by governments are looking at cost leadership. But most of us are looking at profitability also, and this is where the differentiation comes in. Now, Porter mentioned about another category that was focused differentiation or focused leadership, cost leadership. But there are a lot of organizations where we are trying to tackle all these aspects and we are stuck in the middle. And when we are stuck in the middle, actually, this is one of the biggest problems, that we are not able to choose where we are heading. And that is actually, unintended strategy, and that leads to a lot of problems. So when we are entering into the, healthcare business perspective, let us understand the market and the firm power. Now, when we look at firms, you have to understand that the lesser the number of firms, the larger the number of firms, there'll be more competition. And whereas lesser number of players in that specialty or subject or that particular zone, it is pure monopoly. Now here you have to understand, in healthcare there are two concepts. One, the geographical micropoly or the geographical dominance of that particular practitioner. Second is the skill set of that doctor or the practitioner, meaning what kind of service you are providing. Only you as a healthcare professional has that service, and nobody else can match that skill set. So there is something of an oligopoly which you have, or a larger geographical area which is covered by a hospital actually, but it is a general hospital where everyone does the same thing. So it is purely competition. And here, this is where the cost leadership plays a larger role. This is where a differentiated practice plays a larger role. So we have to understand that sometimes a specific specialty in a smaller city or a smaller setup may be actually oligopoly, and that helps them to control the market power. So that is how the whole pricing, structuring of that area happens. Now, when somebody wants to start a practice, this is what Porters had talked about, the various forces. How in healthcare we can look at these forces. In healthcare, when you enter into an economy where is a competitive area, you're looking at the competitive rivalry which is existing. Meaning a gynecologist starting a nursing home in a place, or a maternity home. There are so many maternity homes around. He has to look at what are the bargaining power of suppliers, what are the bargaining power of customers, what does the patient look at, what are the services, or what are the various different cost involved in that particular geographical area. What is the threat of new people entering in that area versus the threat of already existing people who are having their hospitals converting into maternity services also. So this is a small example of how you can look at Porter's five forces. So when you're entering into an area, a radiologist opening a clinic in some area, you need to do a little bit of a survey and evaluate whether it really makes sense. For example, a bank, if they want to start a setup, whether it is an internet banking or a service banking or a full-on service banking or international banking, they actually try to do a research in that area and the geographical area, whether what kind of customers are going to be there. Well, they try to figure it out and then only they start it. In healthcare, we need to start looking at it. Now, when we want to use the tools to decide which services and what area of our focus should be our strength, then we need to look at those areas. So there are these kind of tools available in the management, principles and the benefit domain. Like, for example, the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, BCG Matrix is a very popular in the B schools, where we are trying to look at what kind of services you have. For example, you have a service which is having tremendous scope to grow, as well as you have a large market share. For example, you have a set of beds in ICU, and you have got huge number of chance to have more number of beds in your setup. At the same time, you also have largest number of patients being referred to you for ICU services. Then that is a star service in your hospital. Whereas the number of deliveries are very, very less, but it is going on. There is no scope of growing there because the population is not moving in. So that's your cash cow. But at the same time, there are some of your services. No, I love to do this. Say, for example, you want to set up a cosmetic unit, which actually nobody's interested in your area. So that is your passion, and that is a dog. But there can be a question mark area where you're not sure about what is going to be there. There might be a possibility that the share in the market will increase and there is going to be tremendous growth. So you need to start converting your question mark into actually a star, and you need to put more efforts in those services in the hospital. So this is a kind of a tool which the management advisors or the consultants try to work on. Well, let me explain one small thing. Operational effectiveness, that is doing better in your services, better, faster, cheaper, is something which helps you to maximize your value and improve your profitability. But this is not same as strategy. Operational effectiveness is not same as strategy. So we need to understand this, meaning if you're doing better and if you have improved something, it is very easily replicable. Somebody else will follow the same protocols and same guidelines and same process and the same equipment and the same set of methods and protocols, and they will be able to catch up with your practice. So here again, you need to understand that we need to go back and look at specific area where we identify what we want to work on in the functional zone, and that will help us to reach that. So this is where we start talking about the strategic positioning. How do you position yourself in your practice, or your hospital positions itself with the competitor surrounding? Now you need to choose what position you want, whether it is a value-based, as I discussed, differentiated or cost leadership, or whether it is need-based, you have a customer base or a geographical area which you are serving, and whatever are their healthcare needs, you are going to take care of that. Or where it is an access-based, where you have a particular service which you have started in a particular larger infrastructure, and you are going to just try to use that particular area to reach out. For example, a pediatric service in a maternity home is an access-based. So all the patients delivering in that maternity home are the ones who will be accessed by the pediatrician. Whereas a pediatrician in a general geography is a need-based, where he takes care of that, but then suddenly realizes the child is becoming adolescent and he has the physician sitting in his OPD, he has a polyclinic, he has a hospital. That's need-based. He's taking care of all the patients through the whole life cycle and so on. So we need to create a strategy for these unique activities to create our position in that particular setup. So to establish a strategic position, we need to look and identify our USPs, and with these USPs, identifying them, we need to sustain that competitive edge. We need to strengthen the trade-offs, where unless you have created like, for example, if you have a setup where you have large number of surgery cases coming and you have a completely created a high-end laparoscopic setup. So that's a trade-off. You've invested huge in that. So in that parlance, it will be very difficult for a newcomer to match up with that level of expertise from experience and from expertise from the number of patients that they have treated, and also the availability of the gadgets and equipments. And then we need to focus on our USPs and try to work in that direction. Now I'm going to throw in two more concepts here: the economies of the economies of scale and the economies of scope. When you talk about economies of scale, we mean that we have got an infrastructure, but we are not able to utilize our bed occupancy. Remember, in healthcare, they don't ask you how much money they make, but it is not just the revenue, but it's also about how many patients are you seeing. That is second component. But the most important criteria is ARPOB, average revenue per occupied bed. So your bed occupancy is also very important, and how much revenue you generate from that bed is also very important to understand. And if there is unused bed or amount of money that is potentially about to be generated from the services that you already have is not reached enough, then you need to focus on economies of scale. A very simple management B school rule is, if the scale and the number increases, your cost comes down drastically. Then comes the economies of scope. What do you mean by economies of scope? You're serving a particular population and they have different healthcare needs, and you create that. And once you create that, you get more revenue, and the more services are being given to the patient of your existing patients besides the services you have already offered. And that's the economies of scope. For example, a patient is already coming to the hospital for a particular reason. Say, for example, he's coming to the physician, and if they also need the surgical opinion or surgical intervention, and the surgeon is available in the same hospital, that is economies of scope. And this is something which we many times miss out to understand the power. This is where we have to start looking at in an established practice if you want to look at growth strategies. If you're looking at growth strategies, it's an interesting matrix, that is the Ansof's matrix. Here, we are looking at this 2x2 grid where we have existing services, and here we have newer services. So instead of products, let's not look at products, look at the services and the existing market or existing patients or newer patients. So here you can put it whether it is market penetration, which is one of the most important and the easiest, where the risk is the lowest, where you have existing services, existing facilities, existing infrastructure, and you're just going deeper and trying to reach out to the larger audience. Whereas diversification, where you're putting in a new services or a new location and a new practice altogether. So for example, a urologist starting a nephrology clinic together is actually the same market, and they are doing a product development. A urologist trying to look at a different geographical area to start his practice is a market development. But if a urologist starts a service of gynec delivery, that is a diversification, which is the highest risk. That is where the investment is higher. Now, I'm going to just tell you two interesting words here: imitation straddling and imitation repositioning. So in simple words, the more trade-offs we do, the more kind of investment and differentiation we have done in our practice, the higher is our chance to keep that distance in the competitive convergence. What is competitive convergence? When somebody just matches whatever you're doing and copy paste your whole model, and they are able to achieve, they break the amount. So for example, a doctor, you go and meet a person, he says, oh, there was a time when I used to do, somewhere around 100 surgeries in a month, and now we hardly do 20, 30. Why? Because there's so many newcomers, they're also doing the same thing, and now, the work is divided. Well, that is actually the issue of competitive convergence, where people are catching up with what you're doing. So you need to understand that if there is a high order fit, and if there is a, optimizing of your efforts at a higher level, then it is very difficult for someone to reach your point, and that will give you a distance whenever you are actually practicing. So how do we get that strategic fit? It is by interconnection of diversified activities in your existing setup. Say, for example, if a person is having only a dedicated laparoscopy daycare unit, so it is only going to be having only some dedicated laparoscopy services. But at the same time, if they are adding up, say, for example, open surgery option, then definitely there is a diversified activity because he's a laparoscopic surgeon, but then there is a generation of revenue from there. A radiologist who is running a dedicated sonography center adds up a services of MRI or CT scan simultaneously. So it is diversification to some extent, but it is also economies of scope. So that is something which we need to understand. And there comes the role of training and upgrading your skills. And that is why you need to interact, reinforce, and complement what you already have. So in this journey of competitive advantage, where we are actually looking at is we need to position ourselves strategically and choose where we want to be in the whole gamut of the competitive environment. We need to decide whether we want to work on the economies of scope or scale, depending on the whether we want to make our whole practice cost effective and the cheapest rates versus differentiated and high-end work. And then we need to create those high order strategic fits, which is going to be difficult to mimic or copy so that people don't reach out. So what strategy again? You need to define and communicate your organization's unique position, make trade-offs, and create forging fit among the existing activities. And if you have this larger, for example, in an ecosystem where a gynecologist, obstetrician has a radiologist along with them practicing and a pediatrician practicing along with that, now they start diversifying, having a geneticist or a counselor there or a psychological counselor, or they are adding up with more services, which is strategically fitting into the existing system. It will be difficult to emulate for newcomer. Now, the last concept of benchmarking. In healthcare, we are always changing the benchmark. What was the norm and the golden rule or thumb rule in our treatment protocol or the surgical skill set or the protocol is no more acceptable norms, even in average standards. And this is how healthcare keeps changing. So we need to keep on evolving, and we need to keep on growing and keep on changing and keep on looking at upgrading ourselves, whether it is knowledge, whether it is skill, whether it is equipments and gadgets and the protocols. And that is where the benchmark keeps changing for us. And we need to keep on doing that. So this is one golden rule in healthcare, that if you stagnate, you are going to get finished. You need to keep on evolving or you will perish. So you need to remember that. So for example, there gone are the eras where we were, serving the patient and talking to them and giving healthcare seminars. Now people are using social media. I'll give this example. I have a very popular social media channel where I've got more than 3 crore views. Now, I couldn't understand the importance of patient awareness and education until I realized the people coming back to me and telling me that how much they appreciate the setup and how much they appreciate the information. Now, an average low IQ person who is just trying to make some hits on the IQ on the internet is posting the things, and your patients are getting wrong information and they believe that is right. And then we get pissed off that why are you going to the Google? So we need to change with time. And once we understand that, we need to understand that gone is the time where we are thinking about patients management, disease management and treatment. And then came the time of customer satisfaction, the era where everybody was looking that the customer should go satisfied. Same thing is applying to the healthcare. But the most important thing in the industry globally now is the customer experience. And for us, it is the patient experience. What does the patient feel, whether it is a good outcome or bad outcome? But when they reach home, what is the kind of feeling and what is the experience they're going to share with others? That is going to give us the, the brownie points. Now, at one end, we are talking about improving the operational efficiency. At other end, we are talking about the patient outcome, that is efficacy. Yet, जो भी करता हूँ, patient अच्छा इलाज होके जाता है ना, but that is not what the patient looks at. So sometimes you may have tremendously efficient systems in place, but the patients are still not satisfied. Sometimes the patients are getting treated very well and they go home happy, but the systems are so inefficient that there is high chances of errors and omissions, which in healthcare is really not acceptable, because one mistake is equal to loss of absolute goodwill and practice. So we have to hit a balance between the two. And if we need to hit a balance between the two, we need to understand the importance of operational efficiencies, creating protocols, standardization practices like FEQH standardization that AMC had started, like NABH criteria for standardization, or any of those protocols that we choose to do. At the other end, we also have to look at customer or patient centricity and how we make them happy. So when we're talking about patient, we need to understand that at one end, we have high IQ, but we also need to understand about these two components, that is EQ and BQ, that is emotional quotient and behavioral quotient. And with a little spiritual component, which helps us in tremendous amount of counseling for the patient, it can change the whole thing. I would love to quote Bhagavad Gita, one of my favorite books, and referring points whenever I feel that something needs to be really looked at. Yam hina vyatyantete pursam pursar sabha, sama dukkham sukham dhiram, somritatva kalpate. What does it mean? Lord Krishna tells Arjun that if you have amongst, he says that you're the best amongst the men. If you have a capacity to not get disturbed in tremendous happiness or tremendous crisis, then you are eligible for liberation. Healthcare is a place where we need to control both the ends, because we are going to land up with crisis and we need to overcome that. And that is the role of emotional intelligence. The 4 pillars are: understand your emotions, try to manage your emotions and understand and control them. Then look at empathy of the patient, because this is going to give you tremendous understanding of what the patient is expecting from you, from your setup, from your staff, and that will help you to do better service to them. And that is nothing but empathy. And empathy ke baad mein last mein aata hai how you manage the relationship and interaction. So with this, I'll come to the last couple of slides. When you want to go beyond your IQ, because all of us are considered to be high IQ people, and if we want to understand that we want to grow, we need to add the quotient of EQ, which will help us to give better patient centricity, and that should be added up with the leverage of technology like AI, which is coming up with us. And if you combine technology and EQ, that is going to be the disruptive strategy in practice. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. Once again, I'm summarizing my whole talk. If we want to look at creating a strategy for improving and enhancing our practice, we need to realize that we need to create our primary goals, which are actually not just making profit, but in which direction our organization, our practice should go. And then we need to look at our core competency, what is good about you and your skill set, and try to work in that zone and develop that more and more. We need to create the strategic positioning and trade-offs that I explained. Focus on the scope or scale, deciding on what you want to work on, whether you want to go on cost leadership or you want to go on differentiated practice. then you need to create a strategic fit with your whole team. You are not good enough unless your whole team is good. If you're referring, if your physician is not good enough, if your intensivist is not good enough, if your radiologist is not giving you a good report, if your pathologist, you're definitely not going to work well. So you need to have a good strategic fit and then create the competitive advantage in your practice. And last but not the least, the benchmarking has been changing perpetually, and we need to keep up with that. Thank you very much for your patient attention. Thank you very much.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing the wonderful strategies. I hope we'll all make a change in our practice. Now, may I call, please call Dr. Niranjan Agarwal, sir, our trustee, to felicitate Dr. Mukesh, sir.
Which out of the box.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Now I'd like to call Dr. Ashok Shukla, sir. He's the Vice President of AMC, to carry forward. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Vikrant. So we'll go ahead with the next session. A lot of time after listening to a lot of speakers, we feel that investment is a very easy job. They feel that kuch nahi, I get so much return. My absolute return is this much. My year-on-year return is this much. And investment is very simple. It's nothing difficult. So the next speaker who's going to enlighten us, investment in market, simple, but not easy. So we have Mr. Ravi Dharmashi. He is the founder and chief investment officer at ValueQuest Advisors Private Limited. He is managing AUM of 1800 crores plus and have generated an XIRR of over 23% over the past 10 years. He's managing VQ Platinum scheme, which was recently being awarded as the 5-star PMS rating by PMS Bazaar, powered by CRISIL, which is the highest possible rating. He's also been associated with the Indian stock market for over 21 years. Over to Mr. Ravi Dharmashi.
He may be the new kid on the block. At an early age, he's identified the art of picking up multi-bagger stocks. And for him, performance really speaks.
Ravi has learned from majority of it comes from Mr. Junjunwala. He is one person who I'm really happy that he worked with me. I think the inputs and the results have been very good. I would like to credit more to him than to my office.
We also welcome Mehul Shah and Chirag Shah, who's also from the team of ValueQuest Investment Advisors Private Limited.
Hello. First of all, thank you for taking time out on a Sunday evening. I know it is criminal to be holding you back over here. I hope I make this session worth your while. So a lot of the topics, a lot of things that previous speaker, Dr. Mukesh, touched upon kind of play into what I am going to speak about. Of course, this is more market focused and more investing focused. That was more business focused. But emotional quotient on and the various things required to take the right decisions automatically play into these things. So the topic is a giveaway right here, obviously, what I'm speaking about. Wealth creation through equity is simple but not easy. In today's day and age, when there is Robin Hood in US, or there is Zerodha and Grow and Upstocks, and so many things are happening that one can do all investing and trading on its own. It's better to take a look at somebody who's gone through the cycle and what their experiences say, so that you also understand what it takes to create wealth. Now, creating wealth is different than making money. Making money, even a laborer does make money, but creating wealth is growing it consistently over a long period of time, and that has inbuilt compounding effect over there. So with this, let me just begin. Where do I point this? Okay, so I'll just begin with a small disclaimer. I'll be discussing a lot of examples and a lot of illustrations. So any stock that I name is purely for example purpose, and it is not to give any kind of a buy or sell recommendation. We are governed by SEBI, so I can't give any recommendation. But if there is anything mentioned, it is purely for example purpose. And none of this material is proprietary. I am going to, a lot of things that I have used is publicly available, but of course sources are mentioned wherever applicable. Yeah, so very simple. If you want to make money, buy good businesses at fair or cheap valuations and hold them forever. In other words, buy right and sit tight. Right? It's so easy. One has to do the just buy right and sit tight. But then why does this simple investment philosophy why is it so difficult to implement? So let's try to implement. When I say buy right, now what does buy right mean? Of course, you have to buy a right business or a good business, and you have to buy it at a fair valuations, and then you have to figure out how long you have to sit tight on it, because there will be constantly questions coming at you whether what you have bought is right or no, or have you bought at the right valuation, because it's not a guarantee that right after you buy the stock price has to go up only. What if it goes 20-30% down? And at that point of time, questions will come flowing to you whether you have done the right thing. So just going through the example, blue chips, everybody understands blue chips. Actually, in a casino, the highest denomination of the chips is color blue, so which means that that is the biggest best quality of the chip. But and everybody knows A group stocks or index stocks, Nifty stocks, those are high quality companies that have been around a long term. So you have to buy them and sit there. What you can't go wrong buying blue chips, can you? So this is just a chart which shows how the Sensex has evolved. The companies that were originally in the Sensex started in 1979. Over here, this is the list of 21 stocks that remained in the year 1996 in the Sensex. And then it further came down to 17, came down to 12 in 2010. And I'm sure this number today is even lower than that. So if you see the nature or the components or constituents of the Sensex itself are changing over here. Now, this is a list of top 10 companies in 2001. Look at how it has changed. Hindustan Unilever was the highest weight at 20%. Today it is at 4.59%, even though it is within top 10, but it is such a drastic change. 6 of the 10 companies have dropped out of the top 10 companies. So every 10 years, and I'm sure in the year 2030 or 32, when we will be discussing, the list of top 10 will be very different from what you are seeing here today. So this is a chart which shows that technology is essentially eating every industry. In 2006, this is the top 5 companies in the world that we are talking about, not India. So my presentation will carry a lot of Indian, US examples as well. So this is a world example. But you see, in 2006, there was one technology company, Microsoft. In 2011, Apple came in. Microsoft actually moved out in the top 10, out of the top 10. But today, all the I am sure in 10 years time, even these won't remain. World is changing faster and in unpredictable ways. So let's see what this is, various technologies that are adopted and how long it took to adopt. So telephone was invented in the beginning of the 20th century, and it took almost 100 years for the kind of adoption it some of the things are taking today. So auto, electricity, at least 40-50 years for it to become mainstream technologies. Today, cell phone, internet, mere matter of weeks and days, they end up becoming mainstream. So one has to understand that what some of the companies took forever, 5 years, 10 years to reach, these companies are reaching in a matter of months or weeks also in terms of penetration. Today, everyone is a tech company. This is a JP Morgan, which is a bank as we know it, or Goldman Sachs. Both of them are bank, but both of them are saying over here, we are a technology company. So new business models are emerging on a daily basis, and there is no line. The lines are blurring between the various business models. New competitors are emerging, and prior partners are looking more like competitors. So Mercedes-Benz, the competitors used to be Lexus and BMW. But today, Tesla, Uber, and Google are the competitors of this, of the auto industry. Walmart was used to competing against Costco, Target, Amazon, Costco and Target. Now it is competing versus Amazon and Alibaba. Earlier, media companies were Comcast, Time Warner, Verizon. Today's media companies look like this: Netflix and YouTube. So this is just a chart showing that in 2007, the first Apple phone was launched. This is a chart price of a company that was the leader before Apple launched its iPhone. Disruption happens first gradually. It took 21 months and a crisis for the stock price to fall. But then, and then suddenly, within 5 months' time, it basically got into irrelevancy. Just a question for you. Any guesses which company is this? Absolutely. Nokia is the company, and it used to be a leader. I mean, all of us are old enough to remember Nokia was such a big name over here, and it's nowhere now. Now, even the business managements of the company failed to see this. BlackBerry is still the leader of the pack. Research in Motion, which is the name of the company, is their revenues and profits are going to surge. So managements make statements like this right before their companies are going to be disrupted. And this is what happened to BlackBerry. Gradually, there was disruption, and then suddenly people moved from using keypad to it becoming a smartphone, where we started, keypad came in, keypad vanished, and everybody started using the soft screen-based keypad. So then there was one more company, Netflix, which was emerging at that point of time, and the biggest DVD subscriber model at that point of time was Blockbuster. Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy out Netflix for $50 million, but they were like, Netflix is not even a competition for us. That is the kind of arrogance that Blockbuster had, but everybody knows what happened after that. So that is history. So this is the list of companies that are becoming unicorns. Okay, and this is updated till Q2. If I were to update it till today, the number is even higher. In fact, in the year of 2022 itself, we have reached double digits in terms of number of companies that have become unicorns. So new business models are emerging by the day, and they are becoming bigger while the old business is getting disrupted. Excuse me. Now, that was just to make the point how difficult the business scenario is, and if it is difficult for management, it's even more difficult for investors to just buy any company which is supposed to be blue chip and just hold them tight forever. Now, this is the volume. US cigarette consumption fell 44% from 1981 to 2017. Anybody would say that a business that is not growing, don't invest in it. But look at what happened to the stock. Altria gave 71,000% return from 1981 to 2017, all the time while the cigarette consumption was falling. What does that tell you? I mean, You cannot take a look at, oh, this business is going to grow and is going to do well forever, so I'm going to buy, or this business is not doing well and I should not buy. If that was the case, the Altria would not have been the best performing stock for almost 4 decades. Similar story in Coca-Cola. The volumes kept on declining, but the stock price continued to do well. This is just an example. This is just an example of a stock that got listed in India. I just made a pro forma of what it looked like when it was getting listed. It is a very difficult economic scenario. Business is difficult. IPO market is not hot. Today we can see that IPO market is hot and the companies are listing at tremendous valuation. But at that point of time, market was not hot. The valuations were double of what the already established players were quoting at. So that is what I'm coming to. No, this is when the market was not hot. Paytm came in when the market was hot. Would you have bought? Anybody would have mostly said, no, it is too expensive. It is DMart. It came in at 25,000 crores valuation on the listing day and 19,000 crores at IPO value. Today it is more than 3 lakh crores. And this is when we know that big players like Reliance and Future and Aditya Birla, and they are all Godrej, all of them are there. What is this new player going to do? But they managed to create value and they still are sustaining at this point of time at least. So this is an example of a company that had a very bad US FDA inspection report and the stock fell something like 60% in a matter of months. Would you have bought it? This is what the stock chart looks like right after the US FDA inspection report came in. But this is what happened after that. This is what happened after the second report. So you need vision to see the future. It is not that you can just make a random statement that technology is going to do well and I'll buy this. You absolutely need to understand what is the target market this company is addressing. Are these people good enough to take care of the disruption that it will come along the way? Will they be able to graduate to new businesses, new models, or will this company wither away? So it's not easy. Very small percentage of companies actually go on to create very, very long sustainable wealth. So yeah, you need vision. So again, the continuation of the same point over here, Amazon. Today, everyone knows Amazon is such a fantastic company. But when the dot-com crash happened, the Amazon had a 90% price fall. And forget me, anybody who is the best investor also would have sold out. Who can afford seeing their wealth fall 90%, especially if you are over invested in a company like this. This is the chart price of Nokia. Xerox was a blue chip until it was not. HUL in India gave 0 return for 10-year period from 92 to 2002. Reliance gave 0 return from 2007 to 17. Okay. So obviously one needs vision to see, but then you need the conviction to hold as well. It is not like I've identified, if you say I identified Amazon in 2001 and you bought it and you sold it with a 50% profit. Well, you made money, but you didn't create wealth. Imagine what happened in Amazon post that. So you need to let your winners run. I'm sorry, this thing keeps slipping. Okay, yeah. So a lot of people think buy and sell are the most important decision in investing, but it is the hold, because this is a decision that you take almost on a daily basis. When you are not doing anything, it's a hold decision. When you're waiting, it's a hold decision. When you're saying, no, I will not buy this, you're doing nothing is also a decision. So there are many decisions besides buy and sell also. So you have to develop the conviction to hold the stock. Just because you have bought it does not give you the right to earn tremendous wealth in that. So if you are planning to, So now the second question of, if you remember the 3 questions I posed, buy good companies at fair valuation and hold and sit tight. What is fair valuation? And Nestle India at all points of time was quoting very, very expensive. There was a period a few years back where there was a controversy about MSG in Maggi. Maggi is a big percentage of the Nestle revenue. At that point of time also, it barely fell. I mean, it fell about 30-40%. In hindsight, now it is very clear that was the time to buy. But if you had gone purely by mathematical ratios, then NSE, even at that point of time, was 30+ PE multiple. And add to that, there was uncertainty around its biggest product, what's going to happen. So Nestle has never been cheap. DMart has been tremendous wealth created despite it being expensive to begin with. Yes Bank has always been cheap. You know, even when it was doing well, the stock was cheaper than most of the other market. So market has this sixth sense. If there is something wrong with a particular company, it always quotes cheaper than the rest of the peers in that industry. And if some company is quoting more expensive than rest of the peer, I'm sure there is a good reason for that. One should not go purely by the mathematical numbers or the general perception that, oh, I will not buy high PE multiple means expensive. Sometimes it's more expensive to buy low PE stocks. It has always been very tempting to buy Idea over Bharti or Reliance, because Idea is single digit, double digit. You can buy more shares, feel good about it. But look at what has happened in the stock. You have to understand, if analyzing balance sheet, understanding business trends, or understanding the competition at work is not your forte, obviously you need to go to somebody who can do it for you. But yeah, so what is apparently cheap is not necessarily the right thing to buy. Bajaj Finance, which is a fantastic wealth creator, everyone knows, was expensive even in 2015 at 4x price to book value. Most of the other banks were quoting at 1 to 1.5. Even today, PSU banks are available at less than 1 price to book valuation. But there is a reason why those companies are cheap, and there is a reason why these companies are more expensive. So please don't look at it in the absolute sense, cheap buy, expensive sell. And this is just a quote to top it off. It is far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. Very subtle distinction, but it rings true that buy companies that will last long. See, you don't know when the disruptions are coming, what disruptions are coming. You are essentially doing sidecar investing. You are depending on the management to identify for you that tomorrow the landscape is going to change this way. So a good management will always get a premium, because they are the ones who are doing the work for you. You have to identify, just in life, how you would choose your marriage partner, how you would choose your business partner, is you want to go with people who have integrity, have good, have the similar ethos as you, and can stay in the game for a long period of time. That's how you should be picking up your companies. Now, an example of company that many of you might not know, but there is a small tobacco company called VST Industries. This company did not give any kind of return for a 10-11 year period. One of the smartest investor in India, Mr. Radhakishan Damani, who owns DMart, he had taken up almost 24% stake in that company, and he had given an open offer also. And at that point of time, everybody thought, what is he doing? He's crazy. Similar thing he is doing in India Cements also today. He's picked up more than 20-25% stake. But he is in it for the long term. He was thinking 10, 20, 30 years out, that this tobacco is a cash flow throwing business. This business was being kept alive just to make sure ITC is not considered as monopoly. And what he was trying to do is create a third competitor in the tobacco space. Today, to that time, he would have put in about 30 crores in buying this company's stake. Today, he is getting an annual dividend from this company upwards of 100 crores. That is and capital appreciation is separate. So, but what is required is the patience to hold it. You cannot just, buy, and you have to have a strategy, what you are going to do, and it has to match your profile also. So everybody wants multi-bagger. Who doesn't want multi-bagger? Everybody wants to see their stock go 10x, 20x, 100x, 1000x also. Why not? Possible. But don't bother finding the next big winner if you aren't going to develop the conviction to hold it. Which multi-bagger becomes multi-bagger in one straight line? Every multi-bagger goes through so many ups and downs. So you have to have the conviction to hold it. There will be constantly be things to unnerve you, but the biggest test will be the price volatility. Ukraine, Russia might not impact India in any way directly, but it is concerning us. Markets are falling, sentiment is worse. So people will end up selling their portfolio for no reason that concerns them. So Netflix was, in my earlier example, a stock that has created multiple returns. Look at this. This line is essentially the number of times the stock has fallen and how much it has fallen. So this is almost a 82% kind of a fall, 75% fall. 2 times it has fallen like this. Once it has fallen 60%. So many drawdowns in a stock, which is also a future disruptor. This is Amazon. For 10 years, it did not recapture the 2001 peak when the dot-com bubble had burst. But after that, it's been a fantastic ride. Apple, 8 years drawdown, almost 80%. Again, 80% drawdown. 5 years back, it took to recoup. And so many times it has fallen. But today, it is the most highly valued company in the world, upwards of $2.5 trillion. I'm so sorry, this is just too sensitive. Keeps flipping one slide extra. Yeah, so these are all the reasons why you should have sold. You know, jobs data bad, European sovereign debt crisis, Ebola virus, COVID, supply shortages, inflation, many reasons. But look at the chart, what it is saying. This is from March 2009 till 22. What you should have done. It does not matter in the long term what were the reasons. And I'm sure even Russia and Ukraine will end up being one more reason to sell, but which doesn't really matter in the long-term wealth creation. NASDAQ has had 66 corrections since its inception in 1971. And the current one that we are going through is pretty much in one of the top 5 corrections. So this tells you that correction in the market is not a bug. It is a feature. Market key goes up, market goes down. It is not going to go up straight. So whenever it extends a little bit and it gets reason to correct, it's going to do that. Sorry about this. Yeah. So this is the journey of Sensex, and so many reasons we have had to sell. We had nuclear bomb explosion, sanctions imposed, NDA government falls in 2004, stock markets had fallen 20%. Today, it does not even show up on the chart that big. Then we had the great global financial crisis, Satyam scam came out, COVID fall happened, many reasons why the stock market gave the reasons to fall. And you will constantly see headlines like this. It's war on America. This is 9/11 that had happened. This was 1987 crash. Stocks plunge 22% in a day. In fact, 22% was after it recovered a little bit. It fell almost 30% at one point of time. Crisis on Wall Street as Lehman taught us. This is the global financial crisis. Can you survive these kind of headlines and falls? And this is today's. Russia attacks as Putin wants hold. Biden vows to hold him accountable. One more reason. Actually, this volatility is a feature of the market. One has to take advantage of it. We are going through such volatile times. Portfolios built during such volatile times pay benefit when things are a little on the calmer side. So it is easy to say holding forever. Even Warren Buffett says my holding period is forever. But what happened when the COVID happened and the airlines crashed? Even Warren Buffett sold his share. So it's even the biggest and the best of names find it difficult to hold stocks. This is just an example that we have gone through. So just putting it out here, LIC Housing Finance in the global financial crisis, the stock fell 50%. The whole market was falling. My whole market fell 70-80%, but this stock fell 50%. And I had 2008 was a crisis in which I sold out 50% of my portfolio because I had no idea what was coming. But in hindsight, even the 50% that I did not sell halved in value. And LIC Housing Finance was one of the stock that I was holding. It looked like I made a mistake by not selling out everything. But look at what happened post that. The stock went up 6x in next 2 years, from 2008 to 2010. So a 400 rupee stock fell to 200 rupee, went to 1200 in 2009-10. Because I chose to focus on the company, its fundamentals and valuations, and not get bothered by this the global whatever the news that was coming out. I sold out of companies which I believed where the business model was going to change dramatically, but businesses with good fundamentals are stuck around, and this is there for everybody to see. So you need conviction to hold. Many stories turn out to be luck rather than skill. Everybody bought Eicher Motors for the CV story, but what really did well was the bullet story, that the Royal Enfield. A lot of people think Titan was a watch story, but what really created wealth was the jewelry, Tanishq. We bought a company called Natco in Copaxone, but really some of the drugs that did well, Tamiflu and hepatitis C portfolio, had nothing to do with our original thesis. So there is a lot of luck also involved here. Does not matter if you learn from it as you go along the way, and if you understand that we might have bought for this, but this is the real reason why stock is going up, then it's good enough. So coming to the last part of the presentation. So this is what the Titan journey looks like. Everybody knows Titan is a big part of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's portfolio. He used to own nearly 10% of it. And today that valuation, just this particular company would be 30,000 crore kind of a value in his portfolio, though he has reduced his stake. So, but I am saying, and this is what the chart looks like over the period he has been invested. It looks like, array, one should have easily held on, right? But this is what happened. 2012 to 13 fall, the stock fell almost 50%. 2008 to 9, this was almost 70-80% kind of a fall. In 2017 to 19, again, this looked like the stock is going to crash in a big way. Sorry. Yeah. So 2 times Titan has fallen 25%, 11 times it has fallen more than 30%, 2 times Titan has fallen 50% or more, with 80% being the highest fall. So this is the kind of volatility in stocks that one has to go through to really make multi-bagger returns. It does not come easy. So you need vision to see, you need courage to capitalize, you need fortitude to conviction to hold, and then you need courage to capitalize on it. So everybody had the same opportunity. You could have bought the Titan also. Many people knew about it at that point of time, but very few could build substantial position, and only 1% could hold through the ups and downs. So men who can be both right and sit tight are uncommon. It is one of the hardest thing to do. So again, repeating what the topic is, investing is simple as opposed to complex. It is not, one should not make it a very complex activity. It is very simple. You have to identify good businesses and buy. But investing is not easy. It is hard because you have to deal with these volatile markets. And most of the time, the problem is not the market or the stock. Most of the time, the problem is us ourselves. As Dr. Mukesh pointed out earlier, it is the emotional quotient that is the most important, and not your IQ that is more important. Smart people don't make the most money in the market. People with the best guts, who have the courage, who have the patience and the optimism and ability to understand that this too shall pass, are the ones who make the most money in the market. Thank you so much. Happy to take questions.
Any questions? Sir, how frequently we should reassess our own stock portfolio? So for example, if I have a particular number of shares, so how frequently I should check the fundamentals or the details of the company and decide whether I should hold or sell or add?
Sure, I'll answer that question. First, you have to see, the most important thing in investing activity is to understand yourself. What kind of a person are you? How you react in situations? If you are you a do-it-yourself investor, or you believe that you don't have the time or wherewithal to do it on your own, then you might as well give it to an expert. So let him take care of it. But if you are the one who thinks who can do it, then the frequency of review does not matter, but the frequency of action matters. Every 99% of the time, the job of the fund manager is to cut out the noise. There is news coming on a daily basis from all over. Everything impacts the market, everything impacts the companies that you own, and you don't want to react to everything that happens. So picking the key things, okay, if there is a small change in the regulation, doesn't matter. But if there is a big policy change which is going to make sure the company that you own, its business model is not going to survive, then might as well sell out. So understanding the impact on the company that you're owning with the changes. So whether it is a management change, policy change, some other technical factors changing, how do they impact the stock is very important. So review all the time, or whenever there is some news flow, but take action only when you believe
Because
this
a
is
lot of
it.
time, if you keep seeing the online or the news channels daily basis, as you already mentioned, emotional factor gets added, and then you sometimes take a wrong decision. That's the reason I asked.
No, it is absolutely, it is the boon and the bane of the markets. Equities create wealth when held for a long time. But the unfortunate part is that we can see the price going up and down on a daily basis. When you buy a house, when you buy a piece of real estate, if let's say next day you see a deal happening next door to you at a 20% higher rate, you don't think, let me book profit, right? You don't think of selling the house that you just bought. Or if you are running your own business, you don't do it. But you have to think that you are a part owner, even though a fraction owner of the business, you have to think that you are an owner in the business. Should I be selling out my entire business? Then the decision will become clear to you. No, this is a small thing. It will pass. I still believe in the future of my business and I should hold on.
Number of stocks you feel the person should be having in the portfolio, minimum or maximum, you can say. Maximum mainly, because a lot of time, sometimes we keep buying and suddenly we realize that we have too many stocks which we bought and we can't track them or study them or follow them.
Very good question, but I'll just take a step back and ask an even broader question, is how much money I should allocate to the equities. That first, if you have to ensure that whatever business you are doing is well funded, you own your house, your health policies, insurance policies are in place, your emergency fund is in place. After that, whatever is left is your investable surplus. Now, from that investable surplus, also you can keep a little bit aside for desperate times or situations like this arise. So once you have taken the asset allocation in place, then I believe then the number of stocks, the concentration in the portfolio is a matter of personal choice. But I personally, we believe in a concentration rather than diversification. And number of diversification is also different. So mutual fund own 100 to anywhere between 100 and 200 stocks. PMS houses own mostly between 30 and 40 stocks. But I believe 10 stocks to 12 stocks is more than enough diversification. Finally, if markets are going to correct, usually 9 out of 10 stocks correct. And if markets go up, usually 8 to 9 out of 10 stocks go up. So no amount of diversification can prevent you from volatility. So beyond 10, 12 stocks, it is more about, I don't know what I'm doing, so I am going to diversify. That's kind of.
So there is one of my friend who always says ki sab moh maya hai. What is the rate of percentage of growth or profit if the person is feeling he should be happy? Returns indirectly. Otherwise, see, if 10%, 12%, 20%, 30%, there is no limit. Every time the person feels कि ये stock double हो गया, यार वो double नहीं हुआ, तो 30% बढ़ा वो खुश है, पर उतना खुश नहीं है, because he's comparing. So, because what should be the thing which he should feel that he should be happy and.
So there is a lot of emotions, like you rightly said. There is fear, panic, greed, envy. Don't let your decisions be driven by what the other person is doing. If somebody is doing crypto and making money, good for them. If you don't understand, don't do it. If somebody is doing futures, options, derivatives, and it's working for them, great for them. But my assessment of the probability that you making money in trading is almost nil. So unless you are, there's a quote in the market, doing trading is the toughest way to make easy living. So first of all, it cannot be a part-time activity. It has to be a full-time activity. And if you're not going to be doing full-time, then don't do all this trading. Focus on generating wealth in a frictionless manner where you are buying good companies and holding for a good period of time. That it doesn't mean you start with a 20-year view. You can have a 3 to 5 year view. You can focus on buying companies which are going to do well for next 5 years. And then you keep reviewing whether it is still looks good for the next 3 to 5 years. Because as I showed you, every 10 years, the companies that do well keeps changing. I'm sorry, I lost the thought. What was the question about? Percentage. Sorry. So No. So see, let the returns be an outcome. Don't make returns the starting point. You can control your emotions. You can control the quality of company you buy. You can control the time you are invested. What you cannot control is the returns that markets will give you. While what we do is focus only on returns, but that is the only uncontrollable in the whole process. That is an outcome. You let it be. If you do a good job. Now I'll just give you a top-down view on how to think about returns. India's GDP is going to grow at somewhere between 6 and 8%. India's inflation is going to be between 4 and 6%. So the nominal growth for the market will be about 13-14%. Usually corporate profits tend to grow at 13 to 14% over a long period of time. Now, if that is the case, then markets will track that. If you do a better job, you should expect slightly better than that. If you don't do a good job, you'll get slightly less than that. But it should be more than FD. It should cover the cost of capital. And as long as you are, investing only the surplus funds, then you are not bothered by so much at that point of time what returns you made. You're focused on the process. Focus on the process. Outcome will take care of itself.
So proper discipline and control on emotions.
Discipline is the most important part.
Just one question.
Sure.
Earlier, I have seen many families who have really built their wealth from scratch, investing in equities. But looking at your presentation, I feel things have changed now. So what is that change, and how do we adapt ourselves that earlier times, from earlier, the number of equity companies were also much less. Now there are many more. So selection was not very difficult in the earlier times. Now it is extremely difficult. So how do we go about it? Meaning, I know the answer to this is to have a financial planner, an equity planner.
No, I think Nehal over here is doing a fantastic job. First, you have to get your asset allocation in place. That is the most important part. Once you get your asset allocation in place, then doesn't matter how many mistakes you make in investing, it will not impact your lifestyle. And once that is taken, then you can afford making mistakes. See, investing is not an exact science. I would say in terms of the streams of science, it is more like biology rather than physics and chemistry, where you can have formulas returning exact thing. It is more an evolution. It is more a ecosystem that keeps developing. So you are absolutely right. The way we value company has changed. The kind of companies that are coming up are changing. The models are changing constantly. A lot of changes happening, and you need to constantly upgrade yourself. So one of the reasons why I chose this as a career or a profession was that we constantly keep learning. We have to keep our rate of learning high. Experience, somebody can be in this market for 30 years, 40 years, and it does not mean anything unless you have learned along with the market. So you have to keep learning along with the market, how things are evolving. If you had stuck to the fact that only buy companies which make profit, then you would have never bought Amazon in 2001. Amazon did not make profits. What you have to understand is that the business model was always strong. They were generating cash. They were not making profits because they constantly kept investing that money for the future. So headline numbers of loss making does not mean that company is not good enough. So I'm sure there are other questions relating to the new age business models that are coming here. Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
So one of the things that really concerns me is somehow you assume that this is the stock market goes something similar to a business cycle. It's got its drawdowns and ups and downs. But really at this time, one of my biggest concerns is we are entering into times where there is a lot of unpredictability because the geopolitics of our times have changed. The power equations are changing now, and you know what's happening to the U.S. market, your dependability and the universality of the U.S. dollar. Even that is highly, people have all kinds of negative predictions about what's going to happen. So how in equities market, how do you brace yourself for this situation? Especially because wealth creation is fine as long as you know that there is something there are some companies that are like pure gold, where you just put, for example, Nestle, you just can, but already the price of Nestle is, overestimated, over-evaluated. And
That would have been the case for last 25-30 years also. Anyway, I get your point. What you're saying is it's a volatile, complex, unpredictable, ambiguous world.
So how about, as against equity, we want certainty about things,
Equity is not about certainty.
No,
Sir.
no. That's what I'm saying. And therefore, I don't find it inequity. That's why I'm looking. How about look at other options? Like, for example, you may want to invest in things like gold, demat gold, or some other assets where there is, there is more, there is more predictability, or at least if equities don't reflect the value in future, you would have something remaining in.
No, so absolutely, I get what you are saying. See, markets provide returns are higher where uncertainty is higher. Where the certainty is high, the returns are not likely to be high. So gold is not to be thought of as an investment. Gold is to be thought of as an insurance. You can put 5%, 10% of your net worth. I mean, it's an age-old knowledge that women of this country have perfected, but it is not a growing investment. See, because there is no reinvestment happening. Companies, what happens is the profits that they generate gets reinvested and the pie keeps growing. 1 kilo of gold will remain 1 kilo of gold. Surely the prices can go up, prices can go down, but actually the inherent value of that piece of metal is not growing. So you think of gold as an insurance, and if you are afraid of the uncertainty in the world, that is a very good option for you. I'm not saying, but equities inherently is uncertain. That is why you have to go as an asset allocation. Out of the 100 rupees you have, you cannot put 100% of it in gold. You have to put some percentage in equities also, and you have to embrace uncertainty. And especially when you are very scared is when you put some more money into equities. It goes against the basic in human nature, but that is exactly what you have to do. When you are very, very scared, put some more money.
Just one question, Ravi, like right now, because 2 years people were in lockdown and there is a too much of DIY. Okay, I can go to screener, I can read balance sheets, I can see ratios, and I can pick up my own stocks. Why should I pay 2% fund management fee to a fund manager? What is the job of fund manager? I am also my own fund manager, right? So, how would you, why should a person come to someone like you, and say, not do equity themselves and, give it to you? So that's one question. And second question is, mutual funds also do the same job, right? So why should someone not go to a mutual fund and choose a PMS? So that is like, which class of investor would a mutual fund suit and would a PMS suit? And would it be better to buy stocks directly on their own? And what value will a fund manager add? What do you exactly do which they cannot do on their own?
Sure. So I think I'll take your second question first, which is mutual fund versus PMS. So mutual fund, as I explained earlier, you're buying 100 to 200 stocks. So essentially when you buy mutual funds, you're buying the entire market. So your returns cannot be too different to the market. If market gives 10% return, you'll make 8% or 12% in mutual fund, but it cannot be too much different than that. But if you at your personal level are moving up the value chain, just like the Maslow's hierarchy of need, first you have to take care of your home, security, family, then you move up. So just like that, PMS is a product that is meant for somebody who has generated enough investor surplus for themselves, and they have to start thinking in terms of maintaining wealth, generating further wealth, making sure that money works for them. So mutual fund is a fantastic product. I don't do mutual funds, but I will recommend to anybody who's starting out new, start with mutual fund. But if you have reached a certain stage in life where you have built crore, 2 crore, 5 crore kind of investable surplus, then you are better off going to a PMS, because you are likely to get more customized attention, personalized attention in terms of what your needs are, what your plans and goals are, and they will adapt to what your risk is, instead of getting a standard product which is applied to everybody. So one is that, but since because of the nature of PMS, you can generate returns that are far, far higher than what the mutual funds or markets have generated, or you can generate bad returns also. That is a you have to understand that it is not a guaranteed product. There is nothing, no guarantee whether it is PMS or anything. But the possibility of making better returns is definitely there in PMS. In mutual fund, you will make whatever the market gives. So that is what I would say. I will not go ahead and say my product is the best and you should buy PMS, and that's not how it is. It has to, you have to understand the nature of the product. Then only you will make money in this. Did I answer both your questions?
So the first one was that should people do it themselves?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think
fee justified, like that people think you I'm paying a fee, 2%.
I think the value of I'll give you an anecdotal example, and then that's when you will realize. So you are saying this is an uncertain world. You have absolutely no idea how uncertain the world was in March of 2020, which is 2 years back. Now people seem to have forgotten it, but the markets are falling 1,000 Nifty points a day. It looked like it will go to zero in 7-8 days. That is the kind of uncertainty, and it is a situation that has not occurred for 100 years, where the economy was shut down. There was not going to be any kind of a communication. We have never faced a pandemic. Now that is as complex and as uncertain world you can get. And just let me finish it. That is, if that is the case, now at that point of time, your money manager, if you were personally doing it and if you manage to overcome your emotions and put more money, hats off to you. You can do it well. But if you did not, then you need a money manager, because he is the one who can tell you there is a history. These are uncertain times when you should be putting more money, because you get stocks cheap when there is uncertainty. If there is certainty, you don't get things cheap. Sorry, yeah, you had a follow-up question.
Right, you were mentioning about March 20.
Yeah.
That's the time the COVID crisis struck with full force, and that and it markets fell down. I was trying to make the point they were artificially propped up due to government intervention.
How do you know that? What is artificial? What is why, if it was artificial, why are we today higher than that?
We'll find out. See
That is all these conspiracy theories don't matter at market at large. You can have one stock manipulated.
Yes, difficult to manipulate.
You can say one stock is manipulated. You cannot say entire market is manipulated.
So thank you. Yeah, it's short of time. So thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ravi, sir. I will also request Mehul Shah, sir, and Chirag Shah, sir, also to come from the Value Quest Investment Advisor. I would request Dr. Baliga, sir, to come and felicitate our speaker. He is the Honorary Secretary of AMC.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope I made your Sunday evening worthwhile.
Our next speaker is Mr. Gopal Suchak. He's a zonal sales head distribution Mumbai at Canara Robeco Asset Management Company. Is the joint venture of Robeco in India with Canara Bank. Okay, he comes with an experience of 19 years of experience in asset management company. His association with Canara Robeco, my asset management company, is from last 7 years. Prior to joining Canara Robeco, he was associated with Sundaram Mutual Funds, ABN and Amro Mutual Funds, ING Mutual Fund, Gujarat and rest of Maharashtra for sales and distribution. Mr. Gopal has completed Masters in Business Administration. I welcome Mr. Gopal Suchak. Suchak, please.
Okay, this next one. Hello. Whatever. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. I think Ravi has made my life very easy. So it is, my topic is asset allocation, and I think he has already mentioned that asset allocation is must for everyone. So just to start, before, I would like to know what is asset allocation from you people. Anybody can please help me out. Correct. So what are the eggs? Can you anyone deliberate? Correct. So yeah, everything I think sir has mentioned is art. Yeah, NFTs. Art. Okay. Okay. But do you think it is easily liquidated? Acha. You can liquidate them very easily? Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. I think that I also heard first time that art is. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So in India, which is the favorable investment asset allocation do you see? FD. Okay. That's the problem. Okay. So any another thing? According to me, India mein best thing is real estate. I think 60% of the money what I have heard is going into real estate. Cash. नहीं अभी तो रोकड़ा बंद हो गया है चालू है हाँ down. Okay.
And when you go and inquire with the person who is resident or known to you randomly, you will find that about 80% of these flats are vacant.
Vacant, yeah.
Now, what does this mean?
So I will just say I am hunting for house. Okay, right now in Mumbai. अभी घर में देख रहा हूँ सब जगह पे. So I think cash components have came down. Okay, nobody is ready to take. Yeah. Yeah, in rural it will be. But I think in the residential part it is. And being a salaried guy, I don't have cash also. So, yeah. Today, yeah, it is coming. Yeah. Correct. Cash pro. Yeah, correct. So yeah, let's start this asset allocation. One size fits it all. So I don't think so. Everybody has their own requirements and own asset allocation part. So any seasoned investor, we can ask the question how we can ensure that wealth is built over long term. So how we can build wealth for over a long term? Small investment, yeah. The answer is by looking for the right time to enter the market and the right time to exit the market. And investment manager will say selecting right companies at a right time and invest in for a longer horizon. So, but according to us, market timing and security selection, these both are okay, but the main thing is asset allocation, where right now everybody is focusing more on. Because I will give you a simple example. There is a farmer who is doing harvesting, okay, but आज मेट डिपार्टमेंट ने बोला है कि ये साल बारिश नहीं होने वाली है, तो वो क्या करेगा? हार्विंग बंद तो नहीं करने वाला है. So that is strategically he has to do harving ki kal ko barish hoya, then he can have. So one part is strategic allocation, asset allocation, and second is tactical asset allocation. So I think recently only you have seen the market has become very volatile. Ukraine के ऊपर बम गिरा दिया, Russia has made all these things. So what people will do, people will say कि I will hold on my investments. I feel for another 8 to 10 months मुझे market अच्छा नहीं लगता है. So I will keep my horizon from longer term to little bit limited because I feel market is going to tank. And now during COVID also we have seen that from half of the market came down. So there is also a tactical asset allocation where people will feel कि भाई अभी थोड़ा इसको slow करते हैं. If I am having equity horizon and now I think the market is going to be come down. So there are two parts of asset allocation. One is strategic asset allocation and second is tactical asset allocation. So the main part is strategic allocation, I think, which is for a longer horizon, where I think people have their, as rightly mentioned, sir, Indian equities, long-term debt, cash, short-term debt, commodities, mainly gold, real estate, and now holding foreign currency. I think now many of the mutual fund scheme have came where 35% of the foreign investments are also being allowed to invest. So I think taking asset allocation in a proper way is going to be a new tech, I think, new investment horizon. Next slide. Yeah, back easier. One back. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, up and down. So if you see, there are three type of portfolios we have taken. One is aggressive portfolio where 70% of the equity, 20% of the debt, 10% of the gold. So if you see aggressive, it is 12.85% return of last 20 years. If you see moderate portfolio where return is coming around 10.07, sorry, 11.62, and conservative is 10.07. So if you see all the horizons as well as 20 years equity performance, that is stock market performance we have taken. So the difference is hardly 12.85 to 13.74%. So motamoti what we feel that asset allocation is generating good return as well as your risk appetite has also came down. If you are having one basket में एक ही एक रखेंगे तो there will be volatility and investment can be give you bad result. So Canara Robeco mutual fund, we have got one of the good product, that is Canara Robeco equity hybrid fund, where 65% of the investment is in equity, 35% of the investment is in debt. So asset equity allocation, if you see from February 21 to December 21, the asset equity part has been 72.69 to 71.94. But in November, we have reduced the equity allocation. In December, again, we have increased the equity allocation. If you see in August also, so fund manager is taking technical calls as per the requirement of the market. And this fund is almost 20 years old fund. And Canara Robeco mutual fund is the second oldest mutual fund. After SBI, Canara Bank got the mutual fund license. So most of the, right now our asset is 50,000 crore. Out of that 40,000 crore is into equity and 10,000 is into debt. If you see asset wise allocation of the 56% is in large cap, 15% is in mid cap, 28% is in cash and other. So it is very well diversified. So any further questions, please? Yeah, correct. Yeah.
More than half the money, if it comes into equity market, that will be better thing. Because today also most of the trust invest in FDs.
FDs.
All the societies invest in FDs.
So sir, I am into this industry from 2001. So पहले mutual fund यानी लोग बोलते थे it is equity. Simple. But now I think coming from last 2-3 years after demonetization, most of the flow has came into mutual funds and market came down, then again it has bounced back. So if you see now people are having trust also, and I think every day SEBI has been so much proactive into the mutual fund. I think transparency, mutual fund is having none of the other, I think investment avenues is having the transparency.
Saying trust means charitable trust.
Yeah, correct.
Do not invest because of that inhibition. So I think that inhibition, if it is removed, plenty of money
will, yeah.
But I think the charity commissioners.
There are allowed
criteria for NGOs.
There
So,
are allowed funds.
sorry.
Funds which are allowed by the charity commissioner, by income tax,
To invest in the
invest in mutual
funds?
funds. Yes.
Yeah.
There
I
are.
didn't know about it.
Yeah.
There are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
How
This
do- how-
awareness is not there.
Yeah?
So there are the list of AMCs or list of the schemes also where trust can invest. Okay.
Sir, my question is कि lot of time in newspaper they have many mutual funds names, returns, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year comparison. So whether those are real returns or they also have some absolute return, year on return, some words which we as an investor we have to be careful. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two is whether we should invest, because a lot of time NFOs also come, new
Yeah,
schemes.
correct.
So whether we should invest the time tested, which is there in market for some years, or invest in the NFO. This is the two.
See, first returns, what you see, they are now, I think each and every AMC has given a guidelines to show the try return. Okay, so it will be 1 year absolute, then from 2 years, 3 years will be an CAGR return. So return wise, everything is on the same platform. Regarding the NFOs and ongoing schemes, I think person within their requirement. Okay, if I say some metal funds is came and you don't have metal in your portfolio, if you would like to have, then yeah, you can go for the NFO. But going, if I want to invest in diversified fund or I want to go into the mid cap fund or a small cap fund, there I should go with the track record kind of thing. If anybody funds are having 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years horizon, then I think you should go and track the fund size and the schemes, and then you can go for the investment.
So now as the investor, we have both the options. We can go online and directly invest or invest through some group. So what is the difference? Whether it's always better for the investor to go directly study and invest, or it is always better to go through somebody, take his guidance, whether this, like, because a lot of them, there are sectoral funds also, which might be sometimes very much high risk also. They might get good risk, good return, but that might be good risk. So what is your
So I will give you a simple example. All the doctors are there, and I think if I am having a headache or I am having any problem, what I will do, I will not go directly to the medical store and I will say, give me the painkiller. He will give me only paracetamol, right? But if I go to the doctor, then he will give me prescription, ki boss, you have got this problem, go and take a proper medicine. So I think it is always better to take someone's guidance and then to invest, because hand holding is very much required.
every SIP से कटता है ना सर? हर SIP में से कटता है. एक बार knowledge ले लिया, फिर अगले SIP से तो नहीं कटना चाहिए. Thank you.
See, I think then you should have proper time to give your knowledge, time and everything into that. I think a person is being hired, I think एक simple है ना कि भाई अगर नाई खुद अपने बाल काटेगा तो कैसे कटेंगे? It is better always to have hair cutting in the salon where others will cut your hair.
नहीं वो तो ठीक है सर, लेकिन आप तो अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट खुद ही करते होंगे ना सर, दूसरे
नहीं,
थोड़ी कराते होंगे.
No, no. I have hired an advisor. Okay. I never invest direct. And one more thing, being in this industry for 18 years, I have never invested directly in the stocks.
I think one more thing, that while selecting the mutual funds, there are many people who look at the fund manager.
Yeah.
Because as you have said, you were in previously different fund.
Yeah, right.
Now you are in different fund. So there are many times, okay, this fund manager has managed this fund well. Now he has shifted to this. So we better do this. So it depends upon the impression of the fund manager also.
No, I think it is upon the philosophy of the AMC. Okay, I will give you a simple example. I am with Canara Robeco Mutual Fund. Our emerging equity fund is doing very well. From last 15 years, it has given 18% CAGR. But you will surprised to know there are 16 fund managers who have got changed. Okay, 16 fund managers. But the company's philosophy, fund manager, company's style of handling the portfolio and the schemes are same. So the process has been laid very well.
So it may also depend on the mandate which has been pre-decided for that particular
Yeah,
fund.
correct.
So my question is a little deviating from that. So we understand that the fund manager has a role to play. We understand the mandate is also a role to play. With SEBI making more stricter rules about defining the type of funds, that also has changed drastically. So it is limiting the choices of fund managers. My question is, when we know that the Nifty is going to, or the index is going to do well, so passively managed fund versus actively managed fund, because actively managed funds, we are actually paying from our nose for, dependency on the fund managers.
Correct.
And if for some reason a fund, and historically the replication of past success is not something which is guaranteed. So what is your, advice, or what is your perspective on actively managed and passively managed funds?
Okay. Sir, do you see that Indian economy is growing to grow with what percentage do you see that Indian
So
economy?
in simple words, if I'm paying the money, I expect the actively managed fund to beat the benchmark of the index.
Correct.
And for a passively managed, I said it may imitate the thing, and my risk appetite is not much, so I'm happy with that. So I just want to have a professional.
So I am saying, Professor, that in India, in the developing country, emerging equity like us, emerging country like us, actively fund management is going to do far more better in the small and mid cap category. If you see the large cap, after SEBI's mandate to invest in top 100 stocks only, there you can have little bit deviation, like an active fund management will not give 100 basis point higher or a lower. But if you see, there is a more scope in small cap and mid cap category, where fund management picking style and their operating of the fund management will come in an active way. So going to your question, I think that actively fund management will do better than passive.
So I think you made a point. Am I correct in understanding that if we are looking at large cap or debt as the mandate for the funds, it is better off to look at more of passive ones, and for mid caps and small caps, we can look at the active management or something like that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gopal Suchak. I call upon Dr. S.N. Agrawal as most senior person over here present right now to felicitate Mr. Gopal. Sir, please.
Thank you, sir. Rohit? Where is Rohit? 1 minute. Thank you, sir. Very active. Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Ashok Shukla, please.
Thank you, Dr. Jayesh. Now we'll be going to the next topic, which is a very, very important topic. Again, impact of GST on doctors. And we have eminent speaker, chartered accountant Ashit Shah sir. He's providing training to corporates on indirect taxes, service tax, VAT, and now GST. He's the chairman of Law and Representation of Goods and Service Tax Practitioners Association of Maharashtra, on service tax and GST for the year 2021-2022, contributed articles in monthly magazines published by Chamber of Tax Consultant and All India Federation of Tax Practitioners, visiting faculty at Regional Institute of Comptroller and Accounting General of India located at Mumbai. He is awarded the best column writer for the year 2016-17 in the monthly magazine published by the GST Practitioners Association of Maharashtra. So over to CA Ashit Sachar.
Good evening and namaskaram to all of you. It is indeed a pleasure to be on this Sunday evening amongst all the elite class of professionals, doctors before all of you. And my subject would be the impact of GST on the doctors, your profession. I know that on the previous last, I would say 1 hour, we are just listening about the investment and the wealth creation. And now my topic is little bit dry about the taxation because nobody would like to pay the tax, right? But here it's not like that, Goods and Service Tax Act. Friends, before I go to the subject proper, let me just tell you that this GST, which is known as a Goods and Service Tax Law, many people term this as a very good and simple tax and so on. But really it's a simple tax, let me tell you. Has been introduced in the year 2017, and this is the one of the biggest tax reforms which has been introduced in the agenda of the Modi government. And I think in the next my lifetime, I don't see any other tax reforms would be like that. That's for sure. So, as I have told you that this law has been introduced in 2017, so almost now we are completing 5 years period of time. So the baby which was there 5 years has now become a grown up, and therefore it attracts the attention of all the stakeholders as well as all the general public, because previously it was not much more attention was paid, because especially the doctor profession, because they were out of the ambit of any indirect tax. What do you mean? I mean indirect tax means either VAT or a service tax. They were not levying the tax. But now with the introduction of GST, slightly by one way or another way, they are now affected. And therefore, I think I must congratulate this association for having such kind of knowledge sharing program, so that at least all the people would be able to understand this impact. Now coming to the subject proper, what would be the impact? So under the GST, it says that all the goods and services which whenever it has been supplied, that is sold, right, at that point of time, there would be levied a tax on that, which is known as a GST. However, there are certain exceptions to that, like petroleum product or an alcoholic liquor. They have been kept out of the GST net with an obvious reason that state are more interested in garnering the revenue, and therefore on that product, the GST is not there. However, in respect of all other kinds of goods and services, tax is levied, because under the presumption that more and more, if the goods and services are taxed, then more people would be under the tax net and more revenue would be there. अच्छी बात है कि अच्छा टैक्स होगा तो सबके अच्छा होगा, देश का डेवलपमेंट होगा, and there would be only one nation, one tax. That concept would be very much fruitful. But while drafting the law, what has been kept in mind that in respect of certain very important commodities, the tax they will not levy the tax. जैसे हमारे देश में रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान, उसके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं रहता है. Similarly, education or a healthcare services, on that also the tax cannot be levied, and therefore they are the exceptional thing amongst that. Okay, in respect of healthcare services as produced, the no tax is levied. There a specific exemption has been provided that they will not be liable to pay the GST, and I think everyone knows about it, that on doctors' profession GST is not applicable. Now let's see first of all what are the exemption which is available. One very foremost thing, healthcare services which is provided by doctors or paramedicals or clinical establishment. What I mean clinical establishment, means hospitals or nursing homes or even diagnostic or investigative laboratories have been kept specifically out of the has been exempted under the law. That means कि उनको कोई टैक्स नहीं लगना है. Now what this healthcare services is into, हाँ किनको हम कहेंगे? So it says services for diagnosis or treatment, care for illness, injury, deformity, abnormality, or pregnancy under any system of medicine which has been recognized under the laws in India. So very important thing, it should be within the recognized system of medicine in India. Now all of you are knowing that which are the recognized system of medicine. So there are 5 medicines: allopathy, yoga and naturopathy, Unani, Siddha or homeopathy, that is known as a Ayush. आप लोग ज्यादा मेरे से जानकार है उसमें, right? So if you are providing the healthcare services by using this treatment, then naturally the GST would be exempted. So can anyone tell me कि इसमें से और कौन सी टाइप की मेडिसिन दिया जाता है for the healthcare purpose? Can anyone? Joe? See what here they are saying that the all healthcare services should be in respect of the medicine which has been recognized in India. And which are those medicines? Allopathy, yoga and naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, which is known as a Ayush. Acupuncture is also considered to be a recognized system of medicine nowadays. So now uske alawa koi rahe? Huh? No, naturopathy it is allowed. Yoga and naturopathy. Naturopathy is recognized system of medicine. झाड़ फूक नहीं ना, that is not a medicine. So अगर कोई वो जादू टोना आप बोलेंगे उससे करते हैं. Physiotherapy will come under paramedical. Dentist, doctors, they are doctors, no? And by using in this system of medicine, Haji? Yes. No, so that is no. At present, we are more focusing on which kind of medicine. ये आपने activity बता दी. I am on the product. Which kind of medicine can we envisage apart from this? Huh? No, it's a Ayurvedic. It's there, sir. So that's what I have written over here. Ayush. इसके अलावा आपको कुछ जेम स्टोन से कुछ बहुत सारे लोग इलाज कर रहे, राइट? आप ये पहनो, ग्रीन कलर का स्टोन पहनो, तो आपका हो जाएगा हेल्प. सो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग डजंट कवर विद इन दिस एम्बिट. और अगर उसमें कोई प्रैक्टिस कर रहा है तो आपको एग्जम्पशन नहीं है. दैट्स व्हाट आई वांटेड टू ब्रिंग टू द योर नोटिस. नेक्स्ट थिंग, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि कौन सा एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा. एग्जम्पशन है इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ ओनली care for illness, injury, deformity, abnormality. That means if you are providing any hair transplant or a cosmetic or plastic surgery तो cover नहीं होगा. लेकिन अगर आप यही plastic surgery, if it has been undertaken to restore or reconstruct anatomy or functions of body affected due to congenital defect, development abnormality, injury और trauma से है तो आपको वो हेल्थ केयर सर्विस गिनाई जाएगी. Nowadays अब फैशन चल रही है अपलिफ्टमेंट ऑफ लिप्स, हाँ, तो वो आएगी किसमें आएगी? कॉस्मेटिक. तो उसमें एग्जम्पशन नहीं है. यू हैव टू पे टैक्स ऑन दैट. हाँ, डॉक्टर्स आजकल क्या करते हैं? व्हेन यू गो टू द डॉक्टर्स, वो दांत के लिए बोलते हैं एस्थेटिक सर्जरी. हाँ, वो कॉस्मेटिक में इट विल कवर अंडर. सो डोंट बी अंडर द प्रिजम्पशन व्हाटएवर द डॉक्टर्स आर प्रोवाइडिंग सर्विसेज दैट दे आर अंडर द exemption. No, it's not like that. So one has to be a little bit careful, right? चलो, तो अभी next exemption देखते हैं. Transportation of patients. किसमें transportation करेंगे? Naturally in the ambulance. तो कहाँ से? Ambulance services from that clinical establishment to home or anywhere. These are the exempted services. Then ये हमने अभी बात कर दी healthcare services for human being. तो भी animals और birds भी क्यों free रह जाए? हाँ, after all we all care for them, and therefore says that any veterinary clinic for the healthcare animals or birds, then they are also under the exemption category. Then services provided by the cord blood in the form of preservation of stem cells or any other services related to such preservation. That means ये जो blood bank है, when they are providing the services, what the kind of service they provide, they preserve the blood sales and therefore uske service pe bhi exemption दिया गया है. Services provided for medical tests performed in a clinical establishment. बहुत सारी diagnostic और investigative laboratories है which do the testing, right? Even whatever services they are providing, that means जो charges लेते हैं हमारे पास से, on that also the GST is not to be payable. Then next one is the room rent, which is charged for the patients. Hospitals है या nursing home है, वहाँ whenever patients are admitted, naturally room rents has to be charged. So the question is whether on that room rent tax needs to be levied. So the law says that if it's a composite services, now what do you mean by composite service? Composite service means doctor, if I am admitted into the hospital, then what is the purpose? It's the healthcare. मुझे कुछ वहाँ रहने का मजा नहीं आएगा, right? Nobody would enjoy. So that it's in the package of healthcare services. If it is there, then naturally it would be considered as a healthcare services. And though it is charged separately in the invoices, on that rent, that there is an exemption under the GST. Let's see the next exemption. Food supply to inpatients and others. हॉस्पिटल या नर्सिंग होम में पेशेंट्स आर एडमिटेड, तो उसको फूड तो देना पड़ता है नेचुरली, राइट? नाउ दैट फूड either can be prepared by the hospitals themselves, or they will outsource that activity to someone else who is a contractor or a caterer, and he will prepare the food for that and supply it to the patients. So now the question will come up that about that chargeability. So first and foremost, whenever that contractor supplies the food to the hospital, so naturally that person will levy the GST to the hospital. तो वो hospital के उसको tax देना पड़ेगा, वहाँ exemption नहीं है. Then comes when the hospital charges separately to the patients, whether the tax needs to be payable. So again, the concept of composite supply will come. This is the new norm which term which is used. Composite supply means एक साथ जब हम service देते हैं, क्या service देते हैं? Healthcare service when we provide it. At that point of time, this is the part and parcel of that service. That means कि वो जो खाना देते हैं, if it has been at the advice of the doctor, then naturally it would become within the definition of healthcare और उसके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लगेगा. लेकिन यही खाना when it has been provided to the patients के जो रिश्तेदार है, साथ में friends है, relatives है, उनको दिया जाता है, then at that point of time what will happen? उसके ऊपर टैक्स लगाना पड़ेगा, correct? So that means what is happening? Hospital is there or nursing home is there, उसमें खाना जाता है, तो on the one hand they are providing tax free services or an exempted services. जो healthcare service देते हैं वो exempted है. But at the same time when they serve the food to others other than inpatients, इसको हम कहते हैं, tax needs to be payable. So that means they are providing two sets of activity, taxable and exempt, right? ये थोड़ा ध्यान में रखिए, then we will see how it will affect the things. So that means कि inpatients जो आते हैं उनको ऊपर टैक्स नहीं है, outpatients and other है उनके ऊपर टैक्स लग जाएगा for supply of the food. Then next set of thing. Many a times hospitals appoints the other senior doctors into that payroll and they pay the professional fees. So the question has come up whether such doctors or medical professional consultant, when they get the money from the hospital, whether they are chargeable to tax or not. Last year, I recollect that many of the professionals have received the notice from Service Tax Department, right? Why they have got to get the notice? Because under the Income Tax Act, they have to deduct the TDS. For 26 AS, because of this artificial intelligence, they catch it up. On this, the tax has been deducted. So, wahan computer, what they are saying, yes, since the tax has been deducted under section 194J, therefore, this person is providing services. And therefore, a notice has been issued to almost all the doctors that please, sir, tell me whether are you liable to pay service tax or not. So, this is the area or a era from which this comes up. Now, let us say whether it is taxable or not taxable. So it has been clarified by the CBEC. CBEC means यहाँ जो board है, Central Board of Excise and Customs. They have clarified that when the amount has been paid to the senior doctors or a consultant or a technicians independently without any contract, then they are also providing the healthcare services and no tax needs to be payable. And hence it will come within the purview of exempted supply. फिर तो उनके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लगाना है. So that they have clarified, so the life would be little bit easier. चलो, now next set of exemption देखते हैं. Sale of medicines, very important thing. Naturally, while providing the services of healthcare, medicine तो लगने वाली है, उसके बगैर तो how you will treat the people, right? Now the medicine is per se is not exempted under the law. That means उसके ऊपर tax लगता है. So that means whenever the hospital or a nursing home procures the medicine or other consumables to treat that patient, naturally that supplier will levy the GST. Now the same medicine or consumables, when they are used for providing healthcare services, patient के लिए जब use करेंगे, उसके ऊपर tax लगता है या नहीं लगता है? Obvious reply, no tax is levied. But so now the thing is, many a times I have seen that in the hospitals they have kept the separate chemist shop, pharmacy center रहता है, वहां से medicine आती है in the name of patient और वो patient के bill में add हो जाती है, but उसमें कोई separately tax नहीं लगाना है. This has been clarified in this AR. AR क्या है? This is the authority of advanced ruling. Whenever you have any problem regarding the taxability, so government has made a very important provisions that आपको वो AR को आप consult कर सकते हैं and to understand whether this particular kind of activity is chargeable to tax or not. तो ये जो hospital है, ST Thomas Hospital, Shifa Hospital, wherein the same question was held. जैसे जब भी हार्ट का ऑपरेशन होता है तो स्टेंट बिठाया जाता है. So the question has come up to when a stent is put in the heart, whether it amounts to sale of goods or not. And it has been held that such kind of supply of stent would be considered as a healthcare services और उसके ऊपर one need not have to levy the tax because it is in the course of providing the healthcare services. तो medicines के ऊपर tax नहीं लगेगा, but whenever the hospital procures it, at that point of time they have to pay it. तो ultimately क्या हो जाएगा? Hospital के ऊपर cost तो उसकी बढ़ गई. Yes, very true. Hospital के ऊपर cost बढ़ गई. That means whenever they are procuring any services which is chargeable to tax or such most of the things are chargeable, hospital के ऊपर tax बढ़ जाता है. Right? They cannot set it off. हम बाद में देखेंगे थोड़े टाइम के बाद whether they can offset that input tax. उसको हम कहते हैं input tax credit technical terms में. So whatever tax which has been paid while procuring the goods or services, उसको हम input tax गिने जाएंगे and whether can we offset it, वो हम देखेंगे थोड़ी स्लाइड के बाद. चलो नेक्स्ट जाते हैं. टेस्ट परफॉर्म बाय द आउटसाइड accredited laboratory. Now हमने देखा कि जो भी टेस्टिंग लेबोरेटरी है या इन्वेस्टिगेटिव लेबोरेटरी है, when they provide the report, टेस्टिंग रिपोर्ट, तो उसके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लगता है. They are exempted specifically. Now in this case, JC Genetic India, they were providing this testing facility, but unfortunately, they were not accredited with NABL. Everyone knows, अब सबको पता है NABL कौन है. This is the prime authority which gives the authorization to do the testing and calibration activity. So if I am not attached with this institution, then I cannot issue my independent test report to anyone. बराबर है. तो यहाँ ये केस में JC Genetic ने लाइसेंस नहीं लिया. I would use that word. And they were providing the testing facility. So the question has come up whether उसके ऊपर GST लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा. So the AR has ruled out, yes, they are providing they are merely a subcontractor, because while issuing the report, they have to take the help of other institution, other laboratories who is accredited to the NABL, and therefore the tax they are not exempted. So please ध्यान में रखिए, if you are associated with NABL, then and then only the exemption is there, otherwise आपको exemption नहीं है. तो एक हमें चीज दिमाग में रखनी है कि since I am a doctor or running an hospital, that doesn't mean कि every service is provided by us is chargeable to GST. Chalo. Let's go to the next. Now let's see services not exempted under GST. So as I have told you, when services other than healthcare services are provided by doctors or paramedics or clinical establishment, then they would be subject to GST. Now what could be that thing? Renting of commercial property. Many doctors are having their commercial property and they are letting it on hire to someone. तो ये जो renting आता है, जो rent आता है on commercial premises, उसके ऊपर tax लगता है 18%, so that they have to discharge it. But however, if they are rented out the residential property, तो उसके ऊपर exemption है, they need not have to worry. Similarly, in many hospitals or nursing home, एक part खाली होता है, तो what they will say, चलो ये part मैं थोड़ा rent पे दे देता हूँ, where insurance company can put their hoarding, or an investment thing they can put their hoarding advertisement, then that portion, whatever rent they are receiving, that wouldn't be exempt from GST, or on that the tax needs to be levied. Then sale of motor vehicle, very important thing. Doctors naturally have the motor cars with them now, because in Mumbai especially it becomes now necessity. Every 3 years or 4 years, one has to change the car, right? Because of this road condition. Now, whenever you are selling the motor car, तो आपके ऊपर GST लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा? The law says, yes, इसके ऊपर भी आपको GST भरना पड़ेगा. कौन सी वैल्यू पे भरना पड़ेगा? So now the problem thing is, so आपकी जो इनकम टैक्स में जो बुक वैल्यू है, उसके ऊपर कुछ भी रुपया पैसा मिलता है, तो उसके ऊपर GST at the rate of 18% needs to be payable. So I will give you an example. Income tax में you are, whenever you buying the asset, motor car, so you are claiming the depreciation on that, right? तो आपका क्या होगा? First year में 10 lakhs की मोटर कार ली, 15% is the rate of depreciation, so 1,50,000 less हो गया, so 8,50,000. Second year वापस आपने 15% depreciation ले लिया, वापस रेस कर दिया, so it comes to say 7,500. Now on the third year you want to sell this car and you are receiving say 9 lakhs rupees. तो आपकी बुक वैल्यू जो है वो 7.5 lakhs है, आपको सेल प्राइस मिल रहा है 9 lakhs मिल रहा है, तो डिफरेंस 1,50,000 है, उसके ऊपर आपको टैक्स भरना पड़ेगा. Many a times this escape from the mind कि इसके ऊपर टैक्स लगता है कि नहीं लगता है, but please be alert. Whenever you are selling something, the tax needs to be payable, because this supply you have not done while providing the healthcare services, right? Then infrastructure support services, very important thing. What I mean in our infrastructure support service, many a times the hospitals or nursing home, they will say that we will give the my operation OT theater, OT जो कहते हैं operation theater to the doctors for some specific time. तो उनके लिए बोलता है this operation theater is ready. You come over here, we will provide you all the facility, and in lieu of that you have to pay me something. ऐसे होता है ना? Now ये जो infrastructure support service है, उसमें क्या होगा? GST लगेगा कि नहीं लगना चाहिए? लगना चाहिए. चलो. Anyone else? किसके पास कौन हॉस्पिटल या नर्सिंग होम है? सबके पास है, तो सब लगाते रहेंगे कि नहीं लगाते? अच्छा, लगाते नहीं है बट लगना चाहिए. सर इज ओवर हियर, हाँ. डेप्यूटी कमिश्नर ऑफ GST इज ओवर हियर. करेक्ट. तो लगना चाहिए बट लगाते नहीं. वेरी इंपोर्टेंट. बट वन थिंग आई वुड लव, ये अभी थोड़ा सर प्लीज रिकॉर्ड मत करना. It depends upon how you हाँ, अच्छा live recording हो रहा है. No, so again, very important thing over here is how you treat the transaction. Whether are you really renting out of that your operation theater, then yes, tax लगना ही है. लेकिन अगर आप कहेंगे कि नहीं, my intention is not to earn a rent out of it, but my intention is to provide the healthcare services to the other people, so that that benefit can be extended, then in that respect you can say that this is a sharing of revenue rather than a renting of that thing, then definitely that benefit would be available. But that has to be established in the agreement. Otherwise, you cannot say that this is a sharing of revenue, right? So this is.
The standard operating procedure is that the patient is a patient of the hospital, whether it is a medical legal risk, whether it is a vicarious liability, and ultimately the patient is in the hospital and the hospital charges are being levied, which is exempted in the GST. And the surgeon is given his surgeon's fee. So it's not that the surgeon is paying a rent. If the patient is being charged and the patient is, the surgeon is not paying anything.
Sir, you are very much right. If that would be the case, it would be no problem. But the agreement, yeah, so he says, but sorry, so let me just conclude that. But the agreement has been drafted in such a manner that it's a renting thing. That's why this problem comes. Because the nursing home or hospital wanted to take the certain fixed amount of revenue from that activity, and therefore the problem is there, right? Otherwise, there is no issue. Sure. So this is as regards the infrastructure support service. Now we have understood that a doctor or a hospital are providing only the healthcare services. Then whether it is mandatory for them to get themselves registered under the GST. Khali healthcare service there, then whether it is mandatory for them. The law says that if the aggregate turnover, that means healthcare services, is more than 20 lakhs rupees in respect of services, then in that case, wo state mein they have to register themselves. So registration zaruri ho jata hai because of section 20. But they says that since if you are only exclusively in the business of exempt supply, तो आपको नंबर लेना जरूरी नहीं है. आपको कंसेशन या एक्सक्लूसिविटी दी है कि if you are wholly in the purpose of providing exempt supply, तो आपको नंबर लेना जरूरी नहीं है. So ये आपके लिए सेविंग ग्रेस है, ठीक है. बट आपको मैंने यहाँ लिखा है एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर. सो दैट मीन्स आपका एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में एग्जम्प्ट सप्लाई भी है, हेल्थ केयर सर्विस, और सपोज मैंने आपको बताया कि रेंटिंग भी इंक्लूड हो गया है, दो इट मे बी 1 लाख रुपीज, एंड इफ इट एक्सीड्स 20 lakhs, तो उनको मैंडेटरीली नंबर लेना जरूरी है. दैट्स व्हाई आई हैव रिटन इफ अ डॉक्टर और हेल्थ केयर सर्विस प्रोवाइडर प्रोवाइड्स नॉन हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज एंड टर्नओवर ऑफ बोथ एग्जम्प्ट एज वेल एज टैक्सेबल सप्लाई increases more than 20 lakhs rupees, then they have to obtain the registration under the GST law. So one has to be very careful about it. अभी जो मैंने आपको बताया कि इनपुट सर्विस ITC जैसे हम कहते हैं कि when the hospitals are procuring the medicines, at that point of time they have to pay the tax to the vendors. But when they are providing the same medicines for the healthcare of their patients, at that point of time it is an exempt supply. तो किसी ने भी सही बताया था कि that will become a cost to it. तो अभी उसको हम दूसरी सर्विस के सामने सेट ऑफ ले सकते हैं या नहीं ले सकते हैं. That is the questions I think many of you might be raising. तो मैंने यहाँ दिया है कि if this input and input services, that means the cost of medicines which you are preparing, if it has been used for the purpose of supply of taxable supply, तो आपको 100% जो भी टैक्स पैया है वो आपको मिलेगा. तो बेस्ट एग्जांपल मैंने आपको आउटडोर कैटरर का दिया कि मैं आउटडोर कैटरर के पास से सर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ले रहे हैं, उसके पास से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है टू सप्लाई द फूड इन हॉस्पिटल, एंड सपोज इफ ही इज चार्जिंग 10 lakhs rupees per month. Now during that month my 60% of the food has been supplied to inpatients and 40% has gone to the outpatients या उनके जो, तो 60-40 का रेशियो हो गया. तो मुझे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट कितनी मिलेगी इन द दैट हैज टू बी डिवाइडेड इन द रेशियो ऑफ 60-40. 40% पे मुझे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिल रही है. दैट इज व्हाट इफ दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग ओनली एग्जम्प्ट सप्लाई, खाली एग्जम्प्ट सप्लाई हेल्थ केयर है, देन जो भी कॉस्ट है वो उनको बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा. सो दिस इज द लैक्यूना. सो आपको कोई भी क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगी. दूसरी सारी जो जीएसटी पे हम क्रेडिट जो है क्या होती है, व्हेनेवर वी आर टेकिंग इंश्योरेंस, तो उसमें हमें क्रेडिट मिलेगी? ऑब्वियसली नहीं मिलेगी, बिकॉज वी आर प्रोवाइडिंग ओनली एग्जम्प्ट सप्लाई. हाँ, एंड यूजर तो द लॉ सेज दैट आप जो भी टैक्स भरेंगे उसकी क्रेडिट मिलनी चाहिए, बट दिस इज एन ऑब्स्टेकल क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट सेज दैट इफ वी डोंट गेट द रेवेन्यू यू कैनॉट एक्सपेक्ट अस टू प्रोवाइड द set off or an input tax credit. So this is a very, very clear cut thing कि अगर आपकी taxable supply है उसमें आपने कोई input tax credit use की है तो उसका benefit मिलेगा, otherwise नहीं मिलेगा. Taxes under reverse charge mechanism, which is known as an RCM. So normally, जो person supply service provider है, when he supply the services, he has to charge the tax. तो उसे हम forward charge कहते हैं. But the law has provided that in respect of certain category or a specific class of service, the service provider will not charge the tax, but the recipient of the services will have to discharge the tax. उसको हम reverse charge mechanism कहते हैं. ठीक है, ये मैंने एक छोटा सा यहाँ एग्जाम्पल दिया है. ये गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट का है, वहां सप्लायर इज गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट एजेंसी, वो गाड़ी दिख रही है आपको, एंड दिस इज द रिसिपिएंट. सो he pays 20,000 rupees to goods transporter. Then in that case, recipient, that means a doctor, have to pay the GST on that transportation charges. This is known as a reverse charge mechanism. This is a new funda which has been introduced. Earlier under the service tax law, this concept was there, but now under the GST law, this concept is not there. So ये जो RCM का concept है, that says that irrespective of the fact, आपने अगर 1 rupee भी पे किया है, and if you are taking the services of certain specified categories, तो आपको GST का registration लेना है, उसके ऊपर टैक्स भरना है, उसका रिटर्न भरना है और सारा compliances करना है. Now let us try to see which are those services which probably you may attract in your profession. Transportation of goods by GTA. तो मैंने पहले बताया goods transport agency. That means when hospital procures the good medicine from a vendor और उन्होंने transportation charge भरा hospital ने, then in that case hospital have to be registered under the reverse charge mechanism. So most of the time hospitals क्या कहती है, आप ही transport कर दो, मेरे को यहाँ दे दो, so that I need not have to pay, registered under the GST. That is the one way of planning, I would say. Then services provided by advocate or solicitors. Whenever you are paying to any advocate for say drafting of the deed, or you may have to defend your suit, then in that case, whenever any professional fees are paid to advocates or solicitors, the tax has to be discharged under reverse charge mechanism by the recipient of the services. That means that by doctor or a nursing home or an hospital, तो आपको registration लेना है और tax भरना है. Again, a very important thing. Then services supplied by a director of a company to the said company. आजकल corporatization का culture बहुत है, right? Many hospitals or nursing homes are private limited company. Corporatization means when a company is there, hospital is there, naturally directors are there, and directors are paying sitting fees. Then on that sitting fees, the tax has to be discharged by that doctor. So this also you have to keep it in mind. Then security services. आपका जो हॉस्पिटल है वहां सिक्योरिटी नेचुरली रखनी पड़ेगी 24/7, राइट? उसको अगर आप पे कर रहे हो, and that service is being provided by non-corporate entity. Non-corporate entity means that service provider or security guard रहेगा, वो individual रहेगा या proprietorship firm. Then in that case, he will not charge the GST, pay the GST, but the hospital has to get themselves registered under the GST and discharge the tax liability. बहुत difficult है ये. And similarly, renting of a motor vehicle. If you wanted to travel from say Mumbai to Pune, and you are paying a rent to the motor car agency, then in that case also the tax has to be discharged under the reverse charge mechanism. But अगर आप ओला और उबेर से जाते हैं तो this will not come into the picture. Please keep it in mind. So you have to travel by Ola and Uber. Don't rent a cab, right? So what is the difference between renting of a cab and this Ola and Uber? What is the difference? Corporate? No. हाँ, that's what I am trying to say. कि Ola will charge under the forward charge. Yes, very true. But यहाँ अगर आप कोई motor car agency है, rent a cab, and if they are providing services, then in that case, you have to discharge the tax liability under the reverse charge mechanism. Means he should be a non-corporate entity, of course. Then in that case, this provision would be applicable. So one has to be very much careful as regards the reverse charge mechanism. So these are the only few services which I have identified which may attract you. There are also other types of services wherein reverse charge mechanism applicable, but I have not taken into consideration looking to your profession. Advocates, Q&A, please. Thoda to kuch sir, hamare liye the Q&A, right? So these are the taxes under the reverse charge mechanism. So I think this is the end of this small representation on the applicability of the GST on doctors and profession. Friends, one has to be very much careful. Law is new, I understand, but we have to grow up and update ourselves. Otherwise, we may come into the problem. So with this, friends, I am concluding. If any questions and answers, I would be happy to give you the replies. Okay, fine. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. I think so. After this, lot of questions would be also in mind because वो भरना है नहीं भरना है, registration number लेना है नहीं लेना है, and वो commercial rent, whether it gets added. So a lot of questions would be in mind. So we have a fire chat issue for GST for medical professionals. I would request CS sir first to be on the panel. Already you have enlightened us with the information. I would request Dr. Niranjan Agarwal sir to come on the dais. Dr. Niranjan Agarwal sir is Trustee Association of Medical Consultant and Vice President of AMC, that is Federation of Association of Medical Consultant of India. Then we have Mr. Sumer Kumar Kale sir. He is Joint Commissioner of Department of GST, Pune. He'll be online. So sir will be getting connected online. Then we have Mr. Jitesh Kumar Jain. He's 2014 batch of Indian Revenue Services, Customs and Indirect Taxes, currently posted as Deputy Commissioner Anti-Evasion CGST Mumbai South Commissionerate. His educational background is BTech, MTech in Computer Science, Engineering from IIT Kanpur 2010, and 2 years in IT consulting before joining these services. Welcome, sir. I will hand over to Dr. Niranjan Agarwal.
Thank you, Ashok, and a very warm welcome to the speakers over here in this panel discussion, and sir being there in the Zoom platform with us. After your talk, sir, I think you made my panel discussion a bit easy, but you have made the life of most of my colleagues difficult. No?
So my apology for that, sir.
Sometimes we call ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So being more knowledgeable is sometimes dangerous, and half knowledgeable is even more dangerous. Without wasting much time, you have clarified so many issues which I was supposed to talk in the question and answer session. But I'm sure many must have skipped it while even hearing online. There are more than 300 people, I'm told, online present over here. They were registered. So I may have some repeat questions for you. I hope you don't mind answering them.
No problem.
So the first part and the
Just
first.
before that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. Just a small disclaimer, I'm here on my personal capacity, and this should not be viewed as a departmental view of whatever questions I'm going to answer. Thank you.
In fact, that is much better for us, because then you will be more free to answer at a personal capacity than as an official representative. So, sir, first question you probably answered quite well is whether an healthcare needs to be exempted, whether they should register for a GST number or they should not. But here, let me tell you, we represent mainly doctors who are owning small nursing homes. There are doctors from the corporate hospital, but the corporate hospitals are managed by the administrators. So we have to manage our own hospital. There's a single man army, who even bills, treat, look after the nursing part, bill the patient, collect the charges, and do the, what do you call it, managing the, sorry. Yeah. So we are providing services to ourselves. We are not outsourcing any services. It's like providing services to ourselves. So when you own as like a general practitioner owning a small clinic, or a consultant owning a consulting room, or a small nursing home, 8, 10, 20 bedded, do all of them need to register, or they can not register and be happy?
Okay, so first I have to say, or my friend will say? Okay, chalo. Let me start with it. Since
Let me also ensure, is sir is available online, Mr. Kale?
so let him say, Mr. Kale, and then I think.
Yes, so sir can also talk.
Good afternoon to all.
Sir, you are muted, I think. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please, sir.
Good afternoon to all. I first of all thank Professor Dr. Sushmita Bhatnagar and Dr. Balgia, Dr. Desai for inviting me for such a wonderful program. And that one coincidence is there, that we are looking after health and wealth part of the society. That's why government has introduced GST on 1st of July. That is our doctor's day, that is our charter accountant's day, and that is GST day. Coordination, and both the parts are equally important in the one's life. I am acting now as a tribunal member. Mr. Asit Shah will be there to fight your questions before me right now. Now I am not in the department. So I am acting as a tribunal member in a Maharashtra Sales Tax Tribunal. Most of the questions are very well explained by Asit Shah, though it is a taxation seminar. Taxation seminar is always taxing. It is not like any other seminar, whether people grasp the information very interestingly, where they think why this so, why we are suffered so far. But he makes your job very easy. And 8 to 10 points, what he narrated, you must have relieved from your attention that most of the healthcare services are exempted from the GST. And he had narrated it very well. I will say, instead of knowledge sharing session, this is a caution session. For very small things, you should not suffer. Otherwise, majority of your receipts are exempted from the GST. But small things like how he lastly in his last he shows reverse charge mechanism. So you should try to get the services from the registered organizations and contribute to the. These mechanism is only to protect the revenue and to bypass the payment of GST. This is not for harassing any particular fraternity. Government is in very clear intention to exempt the health services. My colleague, Mr. Asit Shah, has very well explained. I will not repeat all those things very well. But the government notification number 12 of 2070, after 28 June 17, one circular issued by CBIC to that effect is very much. I will request Mr. Asit Shah and my colleague to circulate them among those fraternity. That will cover almost all the healthcare problems. I feel so, and we will meet again to if there are some problems. CBIC circular number 32 of 12 February 2018. Am I right, Jain?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Jiteji Jain will also explain on the part of the department, but whether he has rightly said, we are here to learn from you and to know the field problems so that we can ask the administrator that instead of whether we are not losing the revenue, we can facilitate the further processes. Thanks, Mr. Asit Shah and my colleague Jainji to attend on behalf of me and to explain all those very ticklish issues to the medical fraternity. Thanks for inviting me once again. I could not attend personally due to some of my personal issues. I apologize to the organizer for that. Thanks for it.
Thank you, sir. So further clarification, whether there are diagnostic labs or there are radiological clinics, there are all standalone clinics, physiotherapy clinics. What do you said? Everybody should go and register?
What I would like to add on to what sir has said, there are two aspects of this. One aspect, the doctors are thinking from the perspective of it will be a headache for us. We have to comply with the laws, and the compliance would be cumbersome, burdensome. We have to shell out a fee to the chartered accountant perhaps. And then, but the benefit or the positives of registering with GST is your taxability will only be for the taxable supplies. It will not be for the exempt supply. For example, let's say you are having income of 40 lakh rupees from your healthcare services, and then you are having 2 lakh rupees income from non-healthcare services. Your tax will only be for the 2 lakh rupees and not for the 40 lakh rupees. But in case you don't register and somehow that information reaches to the department and department then gives you a show cause as to why 42 lakhs should not be taxed, then at that point of time, you have to go back. And then if you go to the chartered accountant also, they'll say, now you have come to me post facto, my fees would be higher. So then they'll organize all your records. And on the basis of that records, again, you'll submit it to the department. And the department will then take cognizance of whatever material facts you have put to the records. And on the basis of those records, you will be given a personal hearing opportunity so as to justify whether you are actually liable to tax or not. And based upon that, then they'll pass an order. So the GST is a very responsible act in that way that whenever we are giving any notices, prior to notices also, we have to inform you that we are going to issue such a notice. If there is a certain clarification you want to issue, you can give us back. And then if you revert back within time, then even the notices are not issued. So, and even if the notice is issued, issuance of notice does not mean the confirmation of liability. So the confirmation of liability only happen after the principle of natural justice is followed, whereby you are given opportunity, you represent your facts, and if your facts you are not able to substantiate the claim, then perhaps the liability arise, which is where Mr. Shah rightly pointed out, it's all about having the basic documents correct, the agreements correct. So those agreements will then form basis on the basis of which your taxation would be arrived at. So to sum it up, I would say it may appear that registering with the GST will be cumbersome, but then if you have a clear picture and if you know like what is the amount of revenue which will come from non-GST income, what is the amount of revenue which will come from GST income, then this will not be that big a issue. And more upon that, I think my colleague can add.
Yeah. So as I have said in my presentation, that if you are only providing exempt supply, that means only a healthcare services, then probably you may take a chance that not to register. But my advice would be you get yourself registered, because knowingly or unknowingly, you might be in the providing taxable supplies, what I have narrated. So you have to register. And before that, I would like to put one more thing, that please have your consultant, proper consultant, knowledgeable consultant with you. Don't believe in the WhatsApp Gyan, which has been circulated free of charge, or a Google Gyan, which is also circulated free of charge. Please don't believe on that. Rather than that, you go to the proper consultant, consult them, and then only you act it. Otherwise, there would be a lot of problem which you may face it at a later date.
Unfortunately, many chartered accountant also follow the WhatsApp Gyan and advisors.
No, all not chartered accountant. All of us, we are following WhatsApp Gyan, but one has to select that to whom to believe and whom to not believe.
Yeah.
That's very
So
important.
for the benefits of my member, I whatever I understood, I'm reiterating that. You can correct me. You said 40, but earlier he had said 20. So what should I take, 20 or 40?
20 is for the services and 40 is for goods.
So,
so you are
if you're
providing
owning
services,
a nursing home, or if you're owning a lab, or you are owning a diagnostic center, plus you are having a side income by giving some rental property which is not related to your healthcare, but some other investment karke rakha hua, idhar 2-4 dukane hai, 5 hai, if you are getting rent out of that, then probably, and that rent exceeds 20, correct?
No.
40?
Again, rent would be of 1 lakh rupees, but your healthcare services are 22 lakhs rupees. Then you have to pay that, you have to get yourself
So you have to
registered.
register. So in short, I don't think any of our member could be excluded.
Commercial.
So right. So any shops or any other commercial property, if you have and you are rented it out, what about the income from shares and all? Because even Nehal should
Don't
get
worry.
under them.
Shares में बिंदास करो, वो यहाँ add नहीं
उसमें से
होगा.
कुछ नहीं ना, वो income का कोई रफड़ा नहीं है.
From shares, from
So Nehal will again come and tell asset allocation. Now don't go for a property.
Don't buy commercial property. Put in shares. Put in commercial real estate stocks.
Shares and Canara Bank mutual
So now
fund
I know why
that can Remoco,
Fincon,
right?
why Nehal brought Fincon this particular topic. Now I can sense it, So, sir, apart from the commercial properties which you said, there are commercial activities within the healthcare system, like you get polyclinics, you rent it out to another doctors, they are sitting over there, but they are providing healthcare at the same time, And as you rightly mentioned about renting the OT, actually it's not renting, the patient is billed one bill, where the surgeon charges are separate and the OT charges are separate, bed charges are separate. At the end of the payment, the surgeon takes his payment and the hospital gives his payment. Do you think all those things also would attract GST? Because that's a polyclinic setup, which is again within the healthcare. It is not outside the healthcare.
No, so what I mean to was that infrastructure support services, that means my OT is there. I am renting out that OT to one particular doctor that you please come over here.
No, he's just coming and
yes,
operating there. He's,
yes.
I'm not renting it out.
Correct.
I'm
Then
billing
there
that
is no issue.
patient. As
Then
my
there is
own.
no issue, sir.
There's no issue.
Yeah.
And what about the polyclinic rents which you receive per month?
Polyclinic?
There are multiple doctors who utilize other nursing homes for consultations, you know.
Correct.
Like in a corporate hospital, there are multiple specialties which are available. They take consultation, room charges, you know, all those would also attract GST.
Yeah.
They are within the healthcare, huh, sir. Again, I'm pointing out.
No, just winking wouldn't change the gravity of the thing. What I mean to say is so far as it is within the same hospital itself, you were given a particular place to someone else, and then you are charging 10,000 rupees, and 7,500 is for the going to doctor, and 2,500 is coming to you. That part is separate. Then let's say you're talking about co-space. I mean, or the promotional space. You mean trying to say?
No. So I'm talking about consultation.
Yes.
For 2 hours.
Yeah. So again, the point would boil down to what is the kind of arrangement and agreement you are having with those particular 4 doctors. Are you entering any written agreement with them? What is the terms and condition of those agreement? If you are saying that for particular entity, what you are giving it to them, it's for what purposes again? Like it could.
So can you just simply tell us how legally we can draft it so that we don't have to unnecessarily land away? So we are not asking for illegal advice. We are asking for legal advice.
No, that is not my mandate. I believe he will be better able to tell you that. But what my understanding is as sir said, if it is just purely for the renting purposes, then it will attract.
No, renting for healthcare.
Renting for healthcare.
And within the healthcare.
Yeah. I understand.
Clinical establishment.
I understand. Like when you're talking about a big hospital and then you're giving some space to some particular people, and then that some amount of money you are keeping, some amount you're giving to the doctors who are coming up. That's a separate.
Okay, that doesn't attract.
Rather than you are saying you are having a space which is purely for this purpose only, and which is not being used by you also. It is used by someone else.
No, it is used by multiple doctors in a day. 1 hour everybody come to provide service. You know, healthcare service. Skin specialist come for 1 hour, psychiatrist come for another hour, then a surgeon comes, in a gynec hospital.
I would say, like
one more thing, please.
Circular also, in which I am saying there are 2 categories you mentioned. One category is exempt, the circular is saying. The other category, the circular is not saying anything. So it would be slightly gray area. Perhaps we can discuss more about, like what kind of agreement you are having in a particular arrangement.
I think if there is a sharing of the consulting fees, then it is not in the upper gamut.
And that is to be understood now. Everything cannot be black and white. You don't give ideas. Sir is sitting there, this sir is sitting here. In fact, I was advising her not to keep this symposium. Anyway, I'm just making the mahol a bit light, बहुत सारा investment की बात हो गई तो अभी पैसा भरने की भी बात कर लेते हैं. Suppose you have a medical store with a separate name within the healthcare system, and through that medical store you get supplies for indoor patients which are billed in the billing of the indoor patients. Would that attract, means we have to pay, take GST from the patient? Outdoor patient, I agree. What about the indoor patient? It's a separate, we outsource. Many a time you outsource to somebody कि चलो ये 200 square feet की जगह ले लो, इधर आप medical store डालो, partnership है.
If you are charging the patient holistically, including those medical prescriptions, in that particular case, no GST is applicable.
Okay.
But in case, outside people are coming and buying from that particular place, then the GST is applicable.
Okay. Outside people, outdoor patients, right? So it's very clear if you are providing any services on an OPD basis regarding medical store, then probably you can charge the patient the GST, but indoor supply you don't have to charge, right, sir? That's what you
outside means not our patient, somebody else's patient versus our own patient.
No, outdoor patient, outdoor.
So there are 3 categories here. One is IPD, another is OPD, and another is walk-in outsider, not our patient, but some other doctor's patient who is buying medicine from us.
So even I think, if I'm not mistaken, even your patient on an OPD basis, you have to pay GST.
No, sir.
Because then you're
No, sir,
selling
you are
medicine.
pro-
Just a minute. You are selling medicine on an indoor patient. You are using a consumable for delivering health care.
Sir, even your own patient, when he comes to your own establishment to take the medicines prescribed by you, it is a healthcare service provided by you. So there is no GST. But if your patient comes to my medical store to buy it, then it's a GST because I am not catering to that patient.
I'm
So
more than
let him
happy to
clarify.
hear that.
So these
Sir,
are the three
if you can clarify this.
But yeah. Okay, I'm more than happy to hear that, you know.
Yeah,
both
thanks.
both
Sir,
my
one-
right and left agrees, then I'm with them anyway.
Sir, in the previous discussion that we were talking about renting out our premises to other doctors, I remember because I had gone to the commissioner at that time and we had talked to them, and what he had explained to us is that when you rent out your premises to any other doctor, though that doctor is providing healthcare services, you are getting a commercial income from that. So it is under the purview of the GST. That is the way it was explained to us.
Yeah. So you don't take rent, you share an income. That's a very simple
Yeah,
what he
that-
said, you know. That's what I said. Don't make everything black and white. So the next was, sir, you said that only NABL labs you may not give GST, but many a times in the nursing home, the laboratory person comes, they all may not be NABL accredited. They come, collect the samples and give the reports, and many a time the collection is made in the hospital. Their patients are charged in the hospital. Hospital issues are billed to them. You think we are supposed to charge because that's a service provided for the patient. We cannot build a service in, so we have outsourced that service. Will that attract GST? Because we are not charging the patient GST for that.
Yeah. So now suppose the hospital says that you get your blood checked. So for that matter, you said you go to this testing laboratory, which is there either under the same premises or outside.
Outside.
Now, when that laboratory gives you the report would be given by that laboratory, not by
Yeah.
the hospital or a
Yes, it
nursing
will.
home, right? At that point of time, naturally they will levy the GST if they are non-accredited with the NABL. But if they are accredited with the NABL, then they will not levy the GST. Now here the hospitals doesn't have to play any role.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, naturally.
So,
Why
all-
hospital will come into the
Because
picture?
many a times, even non-NABL, in the whole city of Mumbai, you get all the.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody.
It's a healthcare service. No, sir, laboratory charges.
What he is asking is, hospital bills the patient.
How the hospitals will, I don't understand. Whether on that report, hospital will
Because
charge.
they are indoor,
Acha.
many a time they are indoor patients. Indoor patients are there.
Okay. Okay. But who will give the report? Charge is
The
separate.
report
Who
will
will give
be
the report?
the lab.
Naturally, the report will give by the lab. Report would be in the name of the that patient, right? Not in the.
So
So
I will give you an example.
Yeah,
In
please, sir.
insurance, we are supposed to take complete charges as a package.
Consolidated bill.
As a package. And then they expect the insurance company, IRDA, etc., expects us to bill the patient, and then we pay to the lab. So ultimately, the collection of money is happening at our end, and then the part of that is going to the lab.
Correct.
Now, यहाँ पर GST apply होगा कि नहीं?
To the best of my knowledge, it won't apply.
Sir,
Because,
enough,
because the services has been provided by the testing laboratory to the patient and not to the hospital. Hospital is just a pass-through entity. They are collecting the money and give it to for the purpose of IRDA or for the purpose of insurance. They are just merely a pass-through entity.
Fine, thank you. The next,
Again, matlab, it would depend upon, upon the consideration. Let's say the blood testing, the laboratory is charging 500 and you are charging 1,000.
Yeah.
So then there is a consideration involved at your
Correct.
level.
Yeah. Stand to correct that. There should not be any profit margin.
Consideration, it's all about consideration. Whatever activity you are doing, if it is having any consideration involved into it, then the corresponding element of service is coming up.
But a healthcare service.
No. So what is trying to say?
So that consideration is towards the, the expenditure, which is towards collection of the blood and handling of the patient while and taking the risk of collection for example, in that patient.
From our end, we also
Material expenditure for that particular thing. It includes all those things.
Yeah, the service is provided for the patient so that it's for ease, that the patient does not have to travel towards the laboratory, give the blood there, collect the reports, come back to us, all that. So all that is bypassed, and our staff is collecting the blood. The laboratory is not paying us for that service. We are paying our staff the monthly amount. So all these things, there are certain patients who don't come back to collect the reports. They don't even pay us, but the labs charge us. So the end of the month, we can't say that this patient did not come and not pay us. So that liability all is covered under that consideration that you are saying, sir. So that's a very nominal amount. A lot of times we'll end up making a loss.
Okay, so you have given them matter for thinking and coming back to us, right, sir? But in our favor, I suppose. So there are certain aspects of healthcare which are GST payable, I would say. And then there are doctors, there are many rich doctors also over here who have got many commercial properties rented. So they get GSTs out of that also. So they can offset both. Okay, that is non-healthcare and this is healthcare, so they couldn't do it. Is it possible?
No, it is not possible. You have to understand two things. First thing is, let's say you are buying up a machine and you have paid GST on it.
Yeah.
But then whatever outward service you are providing, let's say you're providing healthcare services, which is exempt services. So if you have bought something in which you have accrued interest, accrued ITC, and your outward services is exempt, then in particular case that ITC is not
No, I understood
available
that.
to you.
That is all
So
right.
in case, let's say you are talking about you are liable for commercial
Renting.
That again ITC won't be available to you, because there is no relevance of you having a machine and you renting a particular commercial place for a rent. There is no correlation. There has to be a correlation between input.
Yeah, because
to be
you
used for
said
the
after that
output.
21 lakhs rupees, because 1 lakh is from here, but your more than 20 lakhs come from this thing, so you are liable for GST registration. So I think in the presentation you said
putting an
you can
example.
set.
I was just putting an
Huh.
example.
No, but I remember Mr. Shah putting in the presentation that, am I wrong?
No, so against taxable, if your outward is taxable, then only you can get the benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah, but here it's not like that. You are providing the exempt supply. Therefore, you won't
No,
be
the
able to.
non-exempt supply of renting properties, etc. Whether that can be offset by whatever I have paid for equipment.
No, you can't.
Achha, it cannot
Sir,
be there.
one clarification here, small thing, because I was involved with this. That's why I just given it
Please,
little
please
input.
do that. Yeah.
That as a doctor, we are doctors as well as citizens of this country. So whatever the normal citizen is going to be charged as commercial property, which is not used for healthcare, we are going to be charged. So we can't expect an exemption there. All right. Whatever healthcare system, what sir explained in the healthcare service providing, whatever commercial income you are getting, that is taxable. Whatever non-commercial income in the healthcare system is not taxable. So this difference we have to understand. So if I'm a doctor, I have a hospital and I have a resort somewhere, that resort is not going to get extra exempt just because I'm a doctor. This charge or tax is not for the doctor, it's for the services of healthcare provision.
Agree. I was just trying to ask whether we can get this set off. That is what I was trying to
No,
say.
sir, so sad.
Mr. Kale sir, you can come in any time because these people are present on my right side and they are visible to me, and that's why maybe I'm asking more questions to them. But it's not that you cannot. Please be free and you can interrupt us. Yes, sir. You are muted again. I think we can't hear you.
We understand the definition of clinical establishment.
Yes, sir.
Authorized practitioner or paramedical, then all those issues will be solved. Those services are only exempt. And what the speaker says right now, you have to correlate your input and output. If your output is health related and input is not health related, then you will not get the input tax credit in a very simple manner. Don't go in very technicality. What we are procuring, it is very directly related to our output services, and that are covered under clinical establishment, or clinical establishments are very well defined. Mr. Shah has already shown it in the clinical establishment and authorized medical practitioners or paramedicals. Only you have to remember those three things. Those three are exempted, and procurements other than income from other than these will definitely be taxable.
Fine.
Now, what you have said, what you are procuring must be directly related to your billing system. The billing system is very important. That Ashish Shah will exempt you. Most of the hospitals, what we have, when I am at Thane as the additional commissioner GST, and some hospitals we have tried on test basis, just like I will not name them, but the basic problem is medical supplies within the hospital is the major problem at that time, what I have observed, and medical supplies or the medical stores within the hospital, how they bill and how they are charging directly to the patient and what are the consumed in the health services, that you have to differentiate and accordingly you have to tax it.
Okay, points well taken, sir. Coming to few of my last questions, many of our members had received some GST notice, some had received some old notice related to service tax also. When we approached the authority, they said they are system generated. We replied to our chartered accountant also, but somewhere it's being continued. So what can we do about it?
I'll bifurcate the questions into two aspects. One is the service tax notices, another being the GST notices. Service tax notices, as sir has also said, that we have, but first of all, I would say that these are not system generated notices. These are all manually.
We were told so that we were told this was system generated. That's why.
That is one way of saying.
I think you need to take more CMEs for the chartered accountants. Because we get all these things from them.
Sir, again, one input over here.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
You were talking about system generated and he was saying it is not. Sir, it was not system generated. What it was explained to us was that since the names do not say doctor so and so, they cannot find out who is a doctor and who is not.
Fine.
That was the problem.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, just to add to that, thank you, ma'am, for regularly helping.
I think she should have been on this side, no?
Yes. Next time we can obviously have ma'am here also. There are two aspects. One is, first we have to understand why these notices have come up. These notices came up because in the income tax returns, we are basically providing certain information. And in the GST or in the service tax, we are providing some other information. So the system, over a period of time, there has been integration of the systems, and there's a data sharing between various tax authorities and other departments. So this has been a potential revenue garner area for the department, and department has been working over this actively for the last 2-3 years. Unfortunately, what happened is that these data comes, if the data come to us at a point of time, and we have a good amount of time, then we can look into each and every data, and then we can try to ask you write a small plain letter which is not intimidating and asking, we have come across such and such data whereby your income under income tax is shown as this, while income under the service tax is shown as nil. So can you please clarify? And if you can clarify, then the no notices will arise. But many a times these things are not done in time, and we are having crunch of time. At that particular point of time, there is some lack of application, and the notices are issued in bulk. So when notices are issued in bulk, that's when you receive the notice and there is a liability, and then you are really scared. So again, as I said earlier, you don't have to be scared about that, because most of your things are exempt. Therefore, you would not be liable for the service tax of the health services which you have provided, except what other incomes you are having. For other particular incomes, you will be having the tax liability. So coming back to, I myself have closed many of the cases of doctors in which there was income only from the hospital and no other income from some other side. And those are the cases which I have closed, like going out of the turn also, because they were really feeling tensed, and because in department we have long pendency of our cases. So I would have like 500 cases which I have to clear. But I will not be able to clear all 500 over one go. So I would like to see which cases are more than 2 years old or 3 years old or 1 year old. I would focus upon them. But then at the same point of time, we are flexible enough that we can take up a recent case also in which it is particularly bothering a particular company or particular industry or particular section. So over last few months, I believe we have received representation from the Doctors Association, from the Lawyers Association, and we have been actively closing those cases. So that there is no undue hardship upon a particular community or particular section of the society. So coming back to service tax issues, as I said, these notices in itself does not tantamount to liability. These are only indicative notices stating that there might be a liability. So please kindly come on record, show us your whatever incomes you have, along with your financial statement, your audited balance sheet, etc. And based upon that, we'll take the judgment whether you are liable for particular service tax or not. So for service tax notices, I would again say, you don't have to be so much tense. You, as sir said, you approach your consultant, and then your consultant and come to us and reply us, and we wouldn't require very fancy reply in that. Your again assumption would be that we do not have a proper chartered accountant for the entire year round, and therefore will not be able to produce, because at times when I have to, let's say I have given you notice that you are liable to pay 50 lakhs, and I have to close that notice, I would require certain documents in your favor also. But that document in favor cannot be one line that I am doctor. I am just a medical registered doctor, therefore I am not liable. Just that one line wouldn't do.
Suffice. Yeah.
On the other hand, it would not be, we are not asking for this bulky document that each and every invoices what you have provided, each and every income you are having, but then a basic amount of information such as the balance sheet and the chartered account, sometimes certify also, and then sometimes you yourself can give your accreditation and certificate, etc. That basic information can also suffice.
So last question, healthcare is exempted from taxation, right? Whether education for healthcare is also exempted? Sir, I am coming to something more. Whether continuous medical education needs to be taxed or they can be exempted?
I would ask sir to first say, then I'll say.
So
I
if
mean, you can put it whether medical colleges fees are taxable.
no, that is not tax.
So then I think such kind of CMEs which we conduct, today is financial CME, but most of the time we conduct medical CMEs, most of the conferences. So whether we should. Who
Any
says?
fees?
Who says? So, एक minute. So for all registration for these conferences, we have been charging GST and paying also. It's not only charging. So should we continue charging or we can stop charging? So, sir, even you can answer that.
Let's.
Kale, sir.
You have to charge this.
Sir, but it's healthcare related education. It's a healthcare activity.
Related and healthcare, what I have said initially, you have to, clinical establishment and services are very well defined.
Okay.
Cover all these aspects.
Fine.
So if you read the definition of healthcare, no, it says it should be to the patient for any injury.
Okay.
And
I
blah,
think
blah,
we
blah.
all educate ourselves for the patient only. Even if I treat my relative, he is a patient at that particular point of moment. Normal patients, normal common human beings, we don't treat. We treat patients.
But by this logic, you can always say, even if I am buying a car, selling car, it is for my patient only.
Patient,
If
not
I am
for,
buying a
it's not
commercial
for
place
me.
also, it's not for me. It's just for my mental.
Yes.
So I think most of the things which any in the chat box, I think our online people should be given chance. There are 39 chats I can see. Anything related to GST, I would like to take it,
Which is not covered.
Whatever is not covered, only give it. Shukla, go and just screen that. Most of them are registration numbers. So see, here also we are trying to take credit hours for the medical council. So it's like education only actually.
No, even when you talk about education also, you talk about coaching classes.
Huh.
So they are liable for GST.
No,
So
healthcare.
No, healthcare also. Even if you're providing medical education preparation for NEET also, that also is liable for GST.
Okay. Any
That is free.
So there's a question by Dr. Kavita Modi. If we pay annual subscription charges for an online medical update journal site via credit card in the US dollar, can be claimed that against business expense? Will this attract GST or reverse charge in view of foreign entity and forex payment?
I think GST will be payable on this.
Payable.
Yeah, GST will be leviable and payable upon
So Kavita, next time be careful, pay GST on that. Next. So the medicine supplied is already answered multiple times. Rental income club with would GST be applicable to? Yes, it is. What is
You have to represent.
What if we register for GST? Then if no liable to GST, do we need to file zero returns or we need to file return?
Yes.
Dr. Ashok Shah has asked this question.
You have to file the return periodically, but the good thing is the periodicity has come down. If you talk about 2 years back, a particular normal individual would be required to file 36 returns. But now that has been brought down. You only need to file less than 6 returns in a year. So you can file a quarterly returns, and a nil return, you can just write a SMS, nil return, and that will be filed.
Okay, so that message is also quite clear. Fine, I think most of the points are well taken. I'm more educated today and less blissful. I was more blissful when I was ignorant. But thank you at the same time. You really, yes. So I'm really happy we conducted this symposium and we asked those questions, and all of you are here, sir is online, and so many things have been cleared in our mind. I can assure you that doctors are the most law-abiding people. That much I can tell you, or among the most law-abiding people. So thank you so much. Dr. Khambe is our trustee. He wants to ask something.
Liable for GST. So many a times there are situations where there is a inherent problem, like people living in where there's a lot of hard water. There is fluorosis of the teeth is concerned. They require bleaching has to be done. Or the fracture. That are you going to pay GST for that? This is not a cosmetic. This is a corrective procedure for it. It's a corrective treatment for that. Why should there be GST for that?
I would again say that, I think this line sir has also mentioned, whenever a care is taken, like is it a cure or is it a care? That is one of
it's a cure correction of that.
So again, that will, like in one particular instance, you said that, this could be only a cure concern, but in other way, it will be taken more as a care concern, right? Because most of the aesthetic procedures in the dental cosmetics, apart from the braces and everything, people want to, beautify them, or then.
No, I beg to differ on that again.
There
There are a lot of corrective procedures are done, which
Sir.
you people later think that it's a cosmetic procedure. It's not that.
Sorry.
A lot of corrective procedures are done,
sir,
which you are considered as a domain. Huh?
If you can segregate and maintain a particular, see, at the end of the day, if you are into that, you have to maintain a separate accounts of what you have work you have undertaken, which will be classified as exempt, and what work you have undertaken which is classified as taxable.
See, normally
And
what
in 99% of the time, we would not go into the much detail of that if you have done it. But if you have not done it, then perhaps there will be disproportionate doubt upon you.
Sir, on your discharge card, you should write non-aesthetic correction. If you, that probably could be a savior point. Am I right?
No, but what about this? Outdoor procedure. There's no distance. It's an outdoor procedure.
Yeah, but how you label it is important, no?
See, when the patient is given a bill, whatever the procedure has been done is mentioned over there and charged accordingly.
So you mentioned that non-aesthetic because it's aesthetic which is.
I mean non-aesthetic, but it's not separate because they have not seen the patient.
So we'll make a representation to them. We'll talk over. Certain. So today is the first session where we have this kind of a discussion. Maybe the organization will take it for. Yeah, sir, please.
Two questions. They're not related. First is bariatric surgery. There are definitely a lot of clinical reasons why you want to.
So we call it metabolic surgery now. So then that is not correct. That is not cosmetic.
Yeah, not order. Okay. And the other thing is in a CME, there's a full-fledged CME going on. But in that CME, if you are discussing a specific patient's case, what can be done? Or patient's name is, it's not generally discussed, but you are specifically focused on one particular patient, his name, he may not be there, but you are discussing his case. In that case, is it still taxable? Or because right now you are focusing on specifically on providing care, some kind of a care to that patient, because discussing this case, you're getting all viewpoints.
I think now we are more getting into the hypothetical domain.
It is like
talk
whether-
about the specific issues and
Yeah.
I think they didn't even think so much about it, you know.
association thing also.
Yeah, we will not be able to know the difference between that unless and until it is more a specific thing.
And
Then
even for
only
your
it would be
association
different.
thing on which you asked about that activity, I said, again, you are having the benefit of threshold. If your entire collection for the entire year is less than 20 lakh rupees for this particular service you are providing to all the other doctors, then you are not liable for registration under GST.
Okay. So I would like to wind up. Thank you, President Madam, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, my faculty members, for enlightening us. Thank you, Kale sir. Thank you, Shah sir and Dr. Jagjeet sir. Shukla, Dr. Shukla, please come and do the honors for the.
Professor Shukla, Madam, President, Association of Medical Consultants, to felicitate Mr.
Yes, sir. Please come. Nice meeting you.
To felicitate Sia Ashit Shah sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And to facilitate Dr. Niranjan Agarwal sir for moderating and conducting this session. Sir, a group photo, madam, group photo.
Yeah. Kale.
And also would
Kale
give
sir.
digital memento and certificate to Mr. Sumer Kumar Kale sir for guiding us from Pune.
Certificate.
Thank you, Mr. Kale sir. We are handing over the momentum.
Thank you. ग्रुप फोटो किया ना? हाँ नहीं अच्छा. Thank you.